Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage President of the Ad Club, Kathy Kiley.
Well, welcome everyone. So today's theme is all about sharing. And I grew up in a large Irish Catholic family, and that has never been a word in my vocabulary. But I am here today and thrilled to be here. We had an amazing late night last night, so before we do anything else, I would love to give a round of applause to the Ad Club staff for all of their hard work and again, all of their extraordinary dedication. A round of applause, please. You can recognize the Ad Club staff. They all have the red eyes. So good morning, and I am delighted to welcome you all to Media Innovation Day. Every year, we pull together the best and the brightest minds to form the Media Innovation Day Committee. And as you can see from this list and this committee list, this was one of the best committees ever. So a huge thank you to the committee for taking time and sharing your thoughts with us. We discussed what the theme of this year should be in really great detail. And after we had gone on for a while and had a lengthy meeting, it was Cindy Stockwell who finally summarized it. And she said it simply, the theme is share. And she is so right, because when you think about it, sharing is the one thing that is altering the media landscape more than anything else. And it is the consumer who is driving this. Today, we share everything but our toothbrushes. And someone told me earlier that they are willing to share their toothbrush. I disagreed, but today you will hear from some amazing speakers on what sharing means to media. And speaking of sharing, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, and in particular, our platinum sponsors, Yahoo and Brightroll, who generously shared their resources to make sure this event and other events like it, amazing content like this, could happen. So a round of applause, please, for Yahoo and Brightroll. So also, as the audience, you knew when you committed to coming to an event called Sharing that you could possibly be on the hot seat. So we're looking to our audience today to share as well. We're asking for your commitment in using a great platform that we have. It's called Sherry Pick. And with Sherry Pick, we're going to collect all your photos from the day into a live album. So please share with this hashtag and also share on Twitter. Share in any way that you feel comfortable, but please help us make this a memorable and talked about day, and share. All right. Without further ado, I would like to welcome a woman who shares more time than she really has in her life period. But she is so generous in sharing with the Ad Club. Not only is she the 2013 chairman of Media Innovation Day, but she is also the chairman of the 2013 Media Auction. And she also serves on the board of directors for the Ad Club. Please give a warm welcome to Cindy Stockwell. When Cindy is not busy acting as the chair for both Innovation and Media Auction, Cindy is the EVP Chief Media Officer for Hill Holliday. Cindy has 20 years of integrated media planning experience at full-service agencies working on major brands like Dunkin' Donuts, TJX, De Beers Diamonds. Cindy has been recognized for her work linking traditional and digital media for Hill Holliday clients. Please give another huge warm welcome to Cindy Stockwell.
So thank you, and welcome to the 2013 Media Innovation Day. You're in for a great afternoon of content. And as Kathy said, the theme of today's afternoon is share. So we ask you to please do all you can to share. So show of hands, how many of you use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest, Airbnb? Couple. Snapchat? Oh, a lot more of that. Lyft? So pretty much everybody in this room, which means that we're all part of the sharing society. Our hyperconnectivity leads to really interesting rewards from this. It leads to great risks and great responsibility. As individuals, we share a lot, but we all believe, I think, that we're willing to share, and it's worth it to share if we get something back in return. Whether that be more relevant information based on our location, whether that be rewards from marketers, whether that be location-based information. As marketers, though, we have to take great responsibility in terms of how we actually use the data that comes from all this sharing. And we have to make sure that we keep that data safe. Our keynote speaker today has a very interesting perspective on what all of this hyperconnectivity and all of this sharing has meant for us as a society. Let me tell you a little bit about our keynote speaker. Nico Millet is an author, a webmaster, a professor, and an innovator. And as I learned last night, he's also a very interesting student of poetry. He actually has over 400 poems that he's committed to memory. And I'm sure he'd be happy to share one of those with you if you ask him. You probably have heard of some of the work he did. He's well known for being the webmaster for Governor Howard Dean's 2004 presidential bid. He is the man who pioneered the usage of social techniques for fundraising in the political landscape. Subsequent to that, he co-founded Echo Ditto, which is a leading internet strategy and consulting firm, whose nonprofit and corporate clients have included Barack Obama, the Clinton Global Initiative, the Sierra Club, and St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, just to name a few. Nico's also on the faculty of the Harvard Kennedy School, where he teaches graduate-level classes on the internet and politics. What we're really excited about is Nico's first book that was just published in April, called The End of Big. In it, he explores the consequences of living in a socially connected society and how technology, especially digital and social platforms, is giving power to the people and changing our lives and economy. According to Nico, despite all its benefits, our sharing world may have some unintended consequences. So please join me in welcoming Nico to share his view of the future and its impact on all of us.
Thank you. Whoa. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll just say one quick thing before I get started here, but I've been on something of a book media tour, and I've done a whole lot of different outlets and speaking events, and New York Times last week, Good Morning America. And when the ad club email went out announcing I was a speaker today, I got more emails and phone calls from people. I was stunned at the connectedness of this event and this organization. So great job to Kathy and the Ad Club team. Really, really exceptional. But look, boy, I'm like up here, you're down there. Lunch looks good. I think, here, let's do this. I think the world changed in 1984. Not for the reasons that some of you might think. The good nerds in this room will remember that 1984 was the year that Steve Jobs introduced the first Macintosh personal computer with that landmark television ad. What I'm talking about is something very different. In 1984, a guy named Chuck Hull invented something called stereolithography. Today we call stereolithography 3D printing. I have a 3D printer. It sprays plastic into shapes. I download these shapes off the internet. I printed my iPhone case that also carries my credit card and driver's license. In April, we had like our first really warm day in Boston. The winter was finally over, spring had arrived. And I have two little boys who are 5 and 3, and I wanted them to wear sandals outside in this great weather. But I didn't want to have to put them in the car and drive to the mall, and the whole thing was feeling like a disaster. And so instead I downloaded blueprints for sandals, almost like Crocs, and I printed them, and then my boys wore them and ran around outside. It's entirely possible that my boys will never visit a shoe store and never buy shoes online. On the subject of sharing, last weekend we were at a friend's house and there were these shoes that this woman had, and my wife loved them, her friend. I said, can I borrow those shoes? And I took them to the office, and I have a 3D scanner, and I scanned the shoe, and then I tried to print a copy of it with my 3D printer. Not that my wife is going to wear like yellow plastic shoes, but it was more to try the notion of sharing, like actual physical sharing of things. This sounds exciting, really. I'm sure to retailers it's somewhat terrifying, but it sounds very exciting. But a couple days after I printed these shoes for my boys, a guy in Texas put up the blueprints, the schematics to print an AR-15 assault rifle. About 100,000 people downloaded the blueprints to print one of these rifles on their 3D printers. This is the same assault rifle that was used in the Navy Yard shooting in Washington, D.C. on Monday, is this same model. And I think this story perfectly encapsulates the opportunity, the excitement, the potential of our technology, and the absolutely dangerous, terrifying side of it. We're facing essential, crazy challenges as we try and navigate this world. And I'm going to try and highlight a few of the ones I think exist in advertising. The argument of my book is that our technology dramatically pushes technology from institutions to individuals. And that's not an accident, that it's designed to be that way. Every chapter of my book looks at an institution of our time and the way that technology empowers the little guy, makes David stronger than Goliath. So I talk about big political parties, and I look at what the Tea Party is doing in the Republican Party, and the fact that Obama managed to defeat Hillary Clinton, an unthinkable act in 2007. I look at big government and the role that technology is playing in pushing power outside of the institutions of our government to individuals and what that means. I look at big armies and militaries and hackers and anonymous and what that means for our institutions, the way technology has pushed the power out of those institutions to individuals, to terrorists. I look at big universities, big fun, big entertainment, big manufacturing, big brands, trying to understand what this age of radical empowerment of the individual does to our ways of doing business, to our ways of living in society, and what the most exciting parts of that are and the most terrifying parts, and try and get inside of the ways we have to think about this. In a large measure, my book grew out of going to meetings. I'm sure all of you have been to a few meetings. Going to meetings in Washington, D.C. on policy and political issues, going to meetings in New York City or on the West Coast or in Chicago in board meetings, going to meetings, even, I dare say, Harvard faculty meetings. And I sit in some of these meetings and I think, the world you imagine, the world everyone's talking about in these meetings, the world our leaders are discussing, doesn't make much sense to me. It's not the world that I feel like I live in, or the world that is happening around me. And when I try and really understand that, I was looking for a way to understand that, I stumbled across, you remember the movie The King's Speech, right? Great film, and I was super excited. I watched that film and I was like, boy, I don't really know anything about that period in European history. And so I started reading some books on this, and I read this book, King, Kaiser, and Tsar, which has these letters that the monarchy was writing to each other. King Edward VII died in 1910, and every nation in the world sent someone to his funeral. But most of the nations of the world in 1910 were monarchies and colonies. There were 3 democracies: United States, France, Switzerland. And after the funeral, these kings are writing to each other, the Tsar of Russia, the Kaiser of Germany, the King of England, and they're saying, imagine in 2013 when our children and grandchildren are the kings and queens of Europe and the colonies. But in fact, in 1910, it was actually kind of over already. It just wasn't visible. And that's how I feel almost every day when I walk into meetings and listen to people talk. We didn't end up here by accident. The first computer science program in the country was Purdue University, 1960. And if I were to describe to you, if it was 1965 or 1970 and I was to ask you to describe a computer, you might have described something giant, something that filled a room. A Cray supercomputer in 1975 had a $5 million base price and was really only accessible to the world's biggest institutions, the world's biggest universities, the world's biggest governments, the world's biggest corporations. And today you can walk into pretty much any strip mall in America and buy a machine thousands of times more powerful than one of those Cray supercomputers. So imagine for a moment you're a nerd. I know, it's hard. And you're living on college campuses in the 60s studying computer science. And what's happening on college campuses in the 60s? The civil rights movement, the anti-war movement. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak met just about 10 days or so after the Kent State shooting. They're living in this environment where they don't trust the institutions. They don't like them. And so they decide to create technology that will hold power accountable, that will push power out of institutions to individuals. There was a whole literature, there were books. There was a book by Ted Nelson in the early 70s called Computer Lib. You can and must understand computers now. And it was a crazy notion. When computers would fill a room 35 years ago, it was ludicrous to suggest that everyday people could have computers. In Ted Nelson's book, there's this line, in the future, hundreds of people will have computers and thousands will want them. And we went very quickly. We went from the mid-70s, computers filling a room, to the mid-80s, computers sitting on every desk, to the mid-90s, they're all connected and they're sharing. Remember, those of you old enough to remember the H drive, right? And the printers. And then they're all connected to each other in this giant thing called the internet. And now we walk around with them on our persons all the time. And later today, you're going to see Google Glass and imagine what wearable computing does. And this raises a bunch of questions about where we're headed, about what these institutions of our society are going to do. I think one of the challenges for advertising, for all of you in this room, is that this technology is very intimate. This technology, like my phone, is a very personal and intimate thing. My inbox, when I think about my inbox, I think about my desk and my computer, and my inbox feels like more important to me than my office or even than my home. It's very intimate online, and it's very intentional. I go online seeking things. I want to talk to friends and family. I'm looking for something I want to buy. I'm trying to get directions somewhere. The intimacy and intentionality of the digital world is a serious challenge to advertisers. It's not just the individual, intimate, intentional nature of it. That's not enough to explain what's going on. There's also been an incredible failure of sorts in our institutions. And I'm a little anxious to put this slide up because of our next speaker, but there is boom. This is the top 10 highest grossing films. 1981, 1991, 2001, 2011. It's probably hard to read from where you're sitting, but the teal or green, blue, whatever color we want to call that, that's an original script. The gray ones are adaptations, and the red ones are sequels. And so we go from 1981 to 2011, and in 1981, there's 8 original films in the top 10 highest grossing films. And by 2011, there's 0. People are looking for alternatives. The excitement of what they can find on YouTube, on Netflix, on Facebook, on emerging entertainment platforms, on Yahoo, on Twitter, is compelling, in part because of the way our institutions, our fun, our entertainment aren't delivering enough for us. They're not. It's a lot of retreads. We had a lot of Harry Potter, and I think this is about big fun. There's more music being published than ever before, but less of a number one top hit on the Billboard charts today is a fraction of the sales it was 20 years ago. It's not just big fun. I teach at a big university. I think this is dangerous for big universities. You know, the cost of a 4-year college education in the United States has skyrocketed. Its economic value has plummeted. The Department of Labor had a study last year that said 19% of parking attendants have a 4-year college education and the debt that goes with it. That's kind of broken. That's a failure. And so it's no wonder that people are opting out, that people are seeking alternatives of one kind or another. This is Sebastian Thrun. Sebastian Thrun was a tenured professor at Stanford. He was a famous professor, he had it all, and he left Stanford to teach online at this site, Udacity. And the quote he had was, "I'd rather teach 150,000 students than 150. And I thought, and he doesn't have to go to any faculty meetings. There's 2 trends at work here. When the big institutions of our time, big universities, big government, big political parties, big armies, big manufacturing, big companies, when they're not doing a good job, when they are struggling to figure out what their purpose is, when they stray from kind of core values, and we have this powerful, individual, intimate, intentional technology we can use, we will build alternatives. We will seek ways to opt out. That is the lesson of our technology, is we can build alternatives easily, cheaply, without much trouble. And my question is, what gets lost? When I showed you that slide earlier about blockbusters, what gets lost if we have mostly sequels and adaptations and people opt out and use Netflix on demand and other vehicles to get their internet? What gets lost? I'll tell you one important thing that gets lost. One of the top 10 highest grossing films in 1967 was Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? A film about interracial marriage. When it came out, over a dozen states, in over a dozen states, interracial marriage was illegal. And yet this movie opened nationwide. And it was part of a broader national discussion about race, about biracial marriage. It was a cultural moment. There was something shared in the culture. That's something we're going to lose as people move to individual, intimate, intentional kinds of entertainment and communication. And when I think about universities, big universities are essential credentialers. I'm not sure I want to see a surgeon who got a degree online. I think it might be Georgia Tech now has an engineering degree you can get entirely online. Just think about that the next time you drive across a big brand new bridge. Not only that, but universities are these important carriers of basic research and scientific research, peer review, bringing integrity to things. And so while I'm not necessarily keen on defending the university model as it currently exists, I actually care about what happens in universities. I love teaching. I care deeply about teaching, and I don't want it lost. But at the same time, the system isn't working, so people are using the technology to seek alternatives to opt out. I'm going to tell you one more example about this. I started my talk talking about my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old, my boys. They're very, they're very high energy little boys. And so I organized my life around, well, not just, my wife and I organized our lives around wearing the boys out, right? These slides are right near our neighborhood. Some of you may recognize these slides. I love these slides because it's a couple flights of stairs. And I can sit at the bottom and say to the boys, yep, run up this flight of stairs again, slide down. Oh, that was great, run up again. 20 or 30 times, up the stairs, down the stairs, we're good and exhausted. Hurricane Irene came along and ripped the slides to shreds, destroyed them. The town said it was going to be like about 30 grand, $35,000 or $35,000 to repair the slides, and then it was going to take 3 years. So guess what happened? A parent starts a PayPal page, prints out some flyers, sticks the flyers up on the trees around town, around the park, and says if every parent gives $50, we'll have the money in no time. We won't have to wait 3 years. Of course, I'd like to see those slides. And in just a couple of weeks, boom, they have the money, they give the money to the town builds the slides. Sounds like a great story. But the town had other priorities. The reason it was going to wait for 3 years was because of a major issue they had to deal with the sewage system. There was a whole bunch of other things at play. The purpose of local government is to try and set some of these priorities and decide what we're going to do first and how to do it. Now, I don't think either, they're both right in a sense. The parents, including myself, who gave the money to PayPal, we expect that in today's age, right? Individual, intimate, intentional. We know what we want, we go there in our community. We give the money. I don't know what happened when someone called the town, but I'm pretty sure the town didn't say, oh, well, we got to fix this sewage problem first. I'm pretty sure the town said something like, well, the next council meeting is in, 38 days, and if you bring 300 signatures, you can have 3 minutes on the agenda. And, the process and force and direction of our institutions, our government, our politics, our education, our militaries, our industries, our entertainment is in one direction. And the force and direction and intensity of our technology is completely headed in another direction. And it's closing that gap that I care about. It's closing that gap that I want to find ways of bringing together. So, what does that mean? I have 3 small ideas to leave with you. The first is we have to rethink our relationship. Look at you. I can hardly see you now they turn the lights out. You're sitting there, and I know, because I see the screen glows on your faces. Yep, a bunch of you just looked up. That you're on Twitter and Facebook, and you might be tweeting, this guy Nico, not so good, skip it next time, right? You have a lot of power in this relationship right here. You are not a passive audience. You are able to determine my future if I get invited back, if I get invited to speak somewhere else and maybe get paid. You can go on Amazon right now and give my book 1 star. You can give my book 1 star and it will demonstrably affect the sales of my book and the future of my career. And there's enough of you in this room to really cause a problem for me. You are not an audience. I don't really have a good word to describe what you are. I could say, Dan Gilmore says, you're the former audience, but you have a lot more power than I do, even though I'm the one up here on stage, even though I have the lights. Now, think about the people you lead. Think about your audience, your customers, your employees, your clients. They have a lot more power than you do. And figuring out how to manage, how to deal with that, what that means for your business, for your advertising, for your marketing, that is a significant challenge. But I believe you have to get up every day and come to work and think, they have more power than we do. What do we have to do to serve them? It's a very different change, especially in the media world. It doesn't mean that you do not lead, incidentally. It means the opposite. It means that leadership is more important than ever before. The second thing we got to figure out how to do is combine leadership with distributed power. The Obama campaign was exceptional at this and is the case study. In the Obama campaign, they have like a very traditional campaign org chart. And you could draw a red line, and underneath that red line, well, those are jobs that went to volunteers. And in a traditional org chart, a lot of the least important jobs went to volunteers in a traditional campaign. The Obama campaign moved that red line way up the org chart and gave volunteers significant responsibility. But they used a combination of leadership, culture, and technology to bring integrity to that system so that those volunteers took their responsibilities seriously. Now, I'll give you an example of what that could mean in Boston. We had this terrible bombing here on the marathon. I had a graduate student running in the race, and I teach from 11:30 to 1, And at the end of class, I had pulled up the website to see where he was, because you could track it. And it looked like he was going to finish, between 3 and 3:30, right about the time the bombs went off. And I was immediately terrified for him. I had gotten very close to him. It was a small class. And when I first heard about the bombing, I didn't really believe it. Twitter was exploding. It wasn't clear what was going on. And then it became clear something terrible had happened. And I wanted to find out what had happened to Billy and if he was okay. And he had someone take a picture of him and his wife and he put it on Facebook and said, "Don't worry, everybody, I'm safe." And in that moment, I was so grateful for social media that he had spoken to all kinds of friends and family all over the United States and the world very quickly to say, "I'm safe." And then, the week plays out and a whole bunch of people really want to help. And in Boston, we had incredible, I don't have to tell you, you all live here, incredible outpouring, like the Google spreadsheet of people who were volunteering to give up their spare guest bedrooms and what have you, and put up people who were stranded. And part of that desire to help was a bunch of people who tried to find the bombers on Reddit, on 4chan, and on other social networks. And they made a mistake. They identified the wrong suspects. And one of the guys they identified, they wrongly identified, Sunil Tripathi, was I had known another student who'd been a very close friend of his, and made his parents' life miserable, ruined their life for a few weeks, and the trauma of it exists to this day. And I think that the Boston Police and the FBI did an exceptional job. But there were all these people who wanted something to do. And there was no way to channel that energy. There was no way of combining the leadership and expertise of the FBI and the Boston Police with the vast, enormous energy of the former citizens, the former constituents, the people carrying around this incredible power on them. And that is the gap I'm talking about between our institutions and our technology. The power, the individual, intimate, intentional power of this technology, and the process and structure of our institutions. These institutions exist to bring integrity to things. You're going to hear Megan in a minute, and it costs a lot of money to make an incredible film. It's an expensive process. We need big institutions and big companies to deliver these things, to bring the things we expect out of our lives. And yet, at the same time, our technology wants to push us away from that, wants to push us to these individual, intimate, intentional acts and moments. I'm going to leave you with a final thought and something of a challenge to some of our other speakers and to all of you in the audience, which is that you are all leaders. You are here because you are a leader. The Ad Club clearly is designed to identify, cultivate, and encourage leaders in New England, leaders in media, leaders in technology. And we together have a great responsibility to figure out how to use this incredible technology to bridge that gap between the direction of our institutions and the direction of our technology. And I think a key part of bridging that gap is to get very local. We were talking at lunch about how television stations used to have local programming. There are opportunities to bridge this incredible gap and to build an exciting future. Thank you very much.
Voice of God coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Megan Colligan, President of Marketing and Distribution for Paramount Pictures.
Did you steal the clicker? Hi, I am really excited to be here today to talk about the relationship between sharing and film marketing. I want to first start off by thanking Kathy Keeley and the Ad Club for inviting me here today. It's an extraordinary opportunity to speak with all of you. In the spirit of sharing, I thought I'd start this off by sharing a little bit about myself. So, I began my film career at Miramax Films, and I've also worked at Fox Searchlight and Paramount Vantage. And now I'm president of marketing and distribution at Paramount Pictures, which is a big giant studio. And I was reflecting on that and thinking about, well, how'd that actually happen? But I don't think it's a complete accident. I think that Nico is absolutely right. The era of big government, big companies, and the thinking that's associated with those big institutions has really changed. And so the experience that I have as an independent film marketer has really become essential, even at a very large studio, in how you approach your audience. What's the essence of my job? And sometimes when you love your promotions and you love your marketing, you sort of forget it. Like, the most basic part of my job is to sell movie tickets. That's absolutely what I'm focused on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to interchangeably talk about the concept of sharing as it relates to word of mouth and how that fundamentally manifests itself through social media. So word of mouth used to mean this. A guy could see a TV spot, or maybe he'd actually go and see a movie, and he could pick up the phone and he could call a friend and he could express an opinion. And as Nico touched on so effectively, it now looks a lot more like this. There's an amplified, really powerful opinion maker out there in each and every individual audience member. And that individual audience member can hit dozens, hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. So as marketers, we have to be so focused on each and every film goer. So when Kathy asked me to present, she told me that I was the first person from the film industry coming to speak with you. And so I wanted to just take a minute and talk a little bit about the state of the film industry, just to give you some context before I get into specifics. So word of mouth has always been critically important in the film business, and when you look at this chart, there's just quickly, I threw together examples of movies that opened relatively modestly but went on to do great things, and that's all due to its word of mouth and people stoking that word of mouth. Just a little over 10 years ago, My Big Fat Greek Wedding played in movie theaters for a year. And I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I truly don't think that could happen today. And here's why. I want to speak to some of the things that got touched on in the previous presentation and talk about what's changed. In the last 20 years, there's been 20% more movies in the marketplace. It's not a huge number, but it's significant. The more important thing is those movies have become a lot bigger. In the last 20 years, the rise in movies that are released on 2,000 or more screens, and by definition, those are the biggest movies, has risen exponentially. That puts more pressure on opening those movies because, by definition, those movies are more expensive. And the entertainment space is more crowded than ever, and we all know this as marketers. There's music, television, video games, all competing for the same consumer, and that's created a real glut of noise. You know, a consumer has so many choices, and they're being approached and marketed to constantly about those choices. So we have a changing landscape, more movies, bigger movies, and an audience more distracted than ever. So what's the effect? And I'm talking about the exact same thing Nico was talking about. This is a chart of the last 3 years and the top 20 movies from the last 3 years. And there's one movie on the entire list that's an original property, and that's Inception. And so it is something that we're really struggling with and talking a lot about in Hollywood. But I don't think the complete explanation for that is that Hollywood's just become less creative. I think it has a little bit to do with the marketplace, and I just want to briefly have you look at how we look at research. And this is basically the 4 tenets of our quantitative research. The most important of which is that unaided awareness measure, and that's our measure of heat. We call it heat. When we are approaching a release, we monitor this quite closely, but heat is basically a pollster picks up the phone and calls a house, or we sometimes have it happen online, but it's unprompted. What movies are top of mind? What movie do you bring up and say, I plan to go to it, I'm aware of it? And that really does translate into how a movie performs. It's not that big of a jump for you to understand that people, when there's a built-in awareness around a property and an understanding of that property, you can get to that level of heat that you need to get to that much more quickly. We also look at qualitative measures, and this is a really emerging space in research because it gives us the nuance that we need to understand where we're going, and that's really about social listening. We're looking at search, we're looking at the quality of the conversation, and we have a measure of online ticket sales. And usually when we outperform or underperform, we have a pretty good sense of where we're heading. But again, when people are familiar with a property, that conversation is so much easier to have amongst people, and I think it generates a real excitement among our audience. So how do we develop a film marketing campaign? I'm going to break this down and make it very simple. The thing we basically have to assess is the film's marketability versus playability. And what do I mean by that? Well, to look at marketability, I'll point to a film like Transformers. You know, in 30-second TV spot, you can make an audience extremely excited to go see this movie. And I don't want to get in trouble with Michael Bay, so I'm being very clear. This movie is extremely playable. Audiences love this movie. They've loved this franchise for years, and they love it all over the world. But marketability defines the strategy with which we sell the film. And I'll just show you from last Super Bowl, our last Transformers spot, and you can very simply see what I'm talking about. That didn't work. Isn't it an exciting spot? Oh, there's no sound. So that airs, and you instantly, across all measures of research, see huge spikes. There's instant connectivity. People instantly are talking about it all across social platforms. On the other range is an upcoming movie we have. I thought while I was here I might sell you some movies. Is Nebraska. Alexander Payne, who did Descendants and Sideways, has a film coming up for us, which is a really intimate story about a father and son. But your eyes aren't deceiving you. This movie has some challenges. For one, it's in black and white. It was made for $12 million. It's a very intimate story, and the average age of the cast is about 80 years old. So you can imagine that when everybody has their tablets and there's conversations going on in a household, this movie doesn't necessarily translate to an instant 30-second TV spot. But again, since I was here, I thought I'd give you a sneak peek of the upcoming trailer we have launching on Rush and Prisoners this Friday. Hopefully this works.
So you told the sheriff that you were walking to Nebraska?
That's right. To get my $1 million.
This is Woody Grant.
We are now authorized to pay $1 million to Woodrow T. Grant of Billings, Montana.
This is his son.
You didn't win anything. It's a complete scam. So you gotta stop this, okay?
I'm running out of time.
This is his wife.
I never knew the son of a bitch even wanted to be a millionaire. You should have thought about that years ago and worked for it.
How much longer is he gonna be around? And what's the harm in letting him have his little fantasy for just a couple more days?
This is his family.
Woody here's the talk of the town. Why didn't you tell us you was rich, Woody?
David said not to.
You got it on you.
Yeah, we sure would like to see what $1 million looks like.
And this is the problem.
God damn, Woody Grant's a millionaire. Next round is on Woody.
If Woody hit it rich and I don't see any of it, that would be wrong.
Are you threatening my family?
Everybody's saying how Woody Grant's a millionaire.
That's no big deal.
No big deal. Jeez, $1 million here, $1 million there. Well, the newspaper's gonna do a big write-up on you.
Honestly, right? Woody didn't win anything.
You're a damn liar. Hey.
Come on, have a beer with your old man. Be somebody.
So obviously a very different movie than Transformers, but it is important to note that this is one studio making both of these movies. But when we talk about the playability of a film, luckily we do have real avenues to explore with it. We're able to go to film festivals, we create screening programs, and you're creating the heat off of showing the film itself and building word of mouth through the way you distribute it. So once you've defined the film's biggest asset, then at that point you can build your social media campaign. And there is a really big mistake that I see a lot of my competitors do. Sometimes we do it, and I'm afraid to say I think sometimes all of us do it. And I'll let these guys sort of describe what it is. Ooh.
Hey, Ron, who's driving? Oh, it's okay. It's on cruise control. Cruise control just regulates speed. It doesn't steer.
That was the briefest look at the upcoming Anchorman. But you know, there's this feeling that, you know, the internet and social conversation is a really organic thing. So you just throw a hashtag on something and a campaign launches. And I think that's where we can make a lot of mistakes and where we can really do a disservice to our campaigns. I think there's 3 key components that you need to be focused on when building your social media campaign. You have to have your social media, but then you need traditional PR and paid media supporting those efforts at all times. If you aren't doing that, I really do believe your campaigns are lacking the fuel that is required to make those campaigns thrive. You have to also understand what way you're going in, and then you have to understand the blueprint of where you're going. And I think you want to see a balance, and you want to see a conversation happening between these 3 different disciplines, which as managers, which many of you are, that's a really complex thing because people are used to thinking in very siloed terms, but getting everybody to work together is really the essential piece to all of this, to having a successful campaign. I'm going to walk through 3 real quick case studies that sort of talk about how you can go in different ways and talk pretty honestly about some of the problems we were facing and the challenges we were facing. So the first case study is going in through social media. For this, I'm looking at J.J. Abrams' film Super 8. Came out a couple of summers ago, and as you can see, it has some inherent challenges. It's a 12-year-old boy cast of relatively unknown actors. It's a period piece, and it was a monster movie, but we weren't showing the monster. So it's hard to sort of generate heat, but we really believed in this movie, and we really believe in JJ, and we gave it a very aggressive June date. However, when we came in the Monday before the film was opening, we had a real problem. We really did not have the heat that we needed to open the movie to the level that we needed. It looked like a $20 million opening to us. And sometimes when that's happening, we do turn to our qualitative research and start looking at social media, but just one measure to give you, we were getting about 2 tweets per minute at the height of our conversation, which is really pretty abysmal. So we came up with a solution. We decided to become the first movie ever to open via Twitter. As many of you know, most movies open on Friday. We were going to open this movie solely through the channels of networking across Twitter on a Thursday and open it all day long. Here's how it basically worked. we, at 12:01 on Wednesday night, had a promoted trend that announced that we would be opening via Twitter. We had key influencers who had seen the movie to reinforce great word of mouth talk about that, not just at 9 a.m., but throughout the day. And on Thursday, we were open. By 6 a.m. on Thursday, we put out a media alert to traditional media, letting them know this was happening. And by noon, press breaks began. And our official opening on Friday launched into our assumed opening that had all of the paid media support driving to it. Here was the result. We basically did $1 million on Thursday in box office. And I don't need to explain to you, that is not a lot of gross. But that wasn't the point. We weren't looking for a financial upside, we were looking to create heat. And that's exactly what we did. We had 700 earned media stories, 150 mentions per minute on Twitter, and we created an event around this movie that people were talking about. I have a quick little sizzle just to walk you through what that looked
and
felt
Super
like.
8, the sci-fi thriller making a big push to generate buzz before its official opening tomorrow. Paramount has teamed up with Twitter in a marketing campaign to lure tech-savvy moviegoers. They even premiered their trailer on Twitter, Pat, so that's a first.
Topics on Twitter right now. Super 8 is one of them. That's the new Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams movie, which officially opens today. It's getting a lot of buzz because Paramount paid to be on that list. They wanted to be a sponsored trend on Twitter, even selling tickets via Twitter to a special sneak peek of the movie. This could change the way studios market new movies.
I just heard from Paramount that they did a sneak peek yesterday in just 325 theaters, and they sold $1 million worth of tickets, and that's impressive because they only let people know about that sneak peek by promoting it and letting people know on Twitter. So far it looks pretty good. It's not going to replace traditional advertising entirely because at the end of the day, you still need to reach a broad audience, especially for a big movie like this. But I do think that this shows that we're moving the direction of letting fans spread the word about a movie themselves.
So ultimately, when we look at the weekend itself, we saw a huge jump in our heat. We more than doubled our unaided awareness, and we opened the weekend to $37 million on our way to a $260 million worldwide gross. Variety just that Friday said we were going to do somewhere between $22 and $30 million. So we vastly outperformed expectations, which was fantastic. Looking at case study 2, we're going to talk about going in through traditional PR, and for that I'm going to look at our summer smash this year, World War Z starring Brad Pitt. So for those of you who read Vanity Fair, if you read the May issue, there was a lengthy expose about the complexity of making this movie and some of the bumps along the road in the production of the film. The net result of that was this overwhelming feeling that the movie itself wasn't good, and that just wasn't the case. We knew we had a great movie, but we were really being hamstrung by some bad press that was being perpetuated, not just here, but all around the world. And then I'm sure all of you would love to have Brad Pitt selling anything that you need to sell. But there's a real complexity in working with a celebrity of his magnitude. He wants to sell his movie. The traditional press wants to talk about every other thing in his life besides his movie. And that really becomes a real tension. So luckily, he wasn't just the star of the movie, he was also a producer and a partner. And so he worked with us, and we came up with this, what we're calling the presidential tour across America. Brad, in 24 hours, went to 6 cities, but it was designed for the direct purpose of going directly to the people and empowering the people to talk about the film. Here's how it worked. At 10 a.m. in the morning, Brad Pitt surprised audiences in Atlanta, and I just noticed that this morning, the expletive that my friends at Paramount put in here, so forgive that, but social media lit up because Brad Pitt was suddenly standing in front of them. And other Brad Pitt fans and other friends were reacting to the fact that people were in that theater. 2 hours later, people were able to respond to the film and talk about how much they enjoyed it. But meanwhile, Brad Pitt was already on his way to Philadelphia. So you started to have a convergence of, oh my God, Brad Pitt's in my theater. oh my God, the movie's amazing. And it made Twitter and all social media channels really light up. He then went to Chicago by 2 p.m. and then on to Austin, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and it created a net effect that really took back control of where this film was. So we saw Twitter trends across the country, Instagram lit up, we shot testimonial spots both before and after to support our paid media efforts, and then we had tons and tons of positive earned media off of it. So here's what that looks like.
Atlanta, Philadelphia, Chicago, Austin, a total of 4 stops in one day for Brad, giving unsuspecting fans a nice surprise at screenings of his new zombie thriller.
Surprise! Brad Pitt crashing a screening of his new zombie thriller, World War Z, sending the crowd into a frenzy.
First, we start with Brad Pitt giving fans the surprise of a lifetime, showing up unexpectedly in 4 cities in a day.
That guy does not rest. He's gone to 3 cities so far to surprise fans. They've had advanced screenings. And
in the theater?
Brad Pitt in the theater. Wow. Hi, I'm Brad Pitt. Good
Hello.
luck. He did this in Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Chicago, threw out t-shirts.
But is this just the beginning of Brad's media blitz?
The film's online marketing is already generating buzz. Fans can upload their own Pitt pics and video to the movie's website by using the hashtag World War Z. Dade Hayes wrote about Brad's star power and the movie's viral strategy for Forbes magazine.
Every interaction with fans, in a way, creates its own media empire around those individual people who are affected, because each fan, they've got dozens, hundreds, sometimes thousands of connections through social media.
And so what was the result? It was huge. We did over $500 million of worldwide gross. It was Brad Pitt's biggest opening and his top grossing film of his career. But more importantly, and going back to what Nico was talking about, we were the biggest original opening since Avatar. And we were really very proud of that. And finally, looking at case study number 3, going in through paid media, we're going to take a look at something that we did for Star Trek Into Darkness, and that film just came out this past May. Okay, I'm going to tell you something so crazy about the film business that always sort of surprises people. It's still very much a mom and pop distribution system, and so tickets tend to get uploaded 2, maybe 3 weeks before a movie opens. And so what that means is when we're taking our biggest advertising moments, like say the Super Bowl or Kids' Choice Awards, we're not selling anything. So just to be clear, we are taking a spot in the Super Bowl, spending $3.5 million, and selling absolutely nothing. I know it sounds pretty nuts, but it's what we've been doing for a very long time. We decided with this film we were going to change that. We created an app, and it was a first of its kind app that we announced at CES as part of the keynote address, and we partnered with Qualcomm, creating a really incredibly interactive app that also allowed us to be transactional and speak to our audience. The app combined a lot of state-of-the-art technologies. It had image scanning so that we could incentivize people to be the first to see the Entertainment Weekly cover, for instance. It had audio scanning so that if you were watching the trailer, you were instantly earning points. And it had geo-awareness so that if you were driving by a billboard of Star Trek Into Darkness, you also were earning points. It gamified the entire world of our marketing, which made interacting with our marketing fun and a special thing for fans to be seeking out. But more importantly, it made us transactional. We put tickets on sale 2 days before the traditional opening of the movie, so at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. And those tickets were unlocked during the Super Bowl. So it was a download the app, find out what happens in the Super Bowl, and what you discovered was you were actually empowered to buy tickets that you unlocked, that only you unlocked because you were in possession of this app. The results were fantastic. We made Star Trek a movie event during the Super Bowl, which is not easy to do. It's a very noisy, complicated time. We sold 54,000 tickets for that night, which was a spectacular result. We saw nearly 1 million installs of this app because it existed and evolved over time, and there were added a really long tail to our Super Bowl spot. That wasn't a 24-hour event, that was a month-long event for us. And the app lives on in the home entertainment window. The film itself did spectacularly well. We opened to over $70 million. We did $465 million worldwide and counting. And our home entertainment product has continued to set records. We are the fastest selling digital film of all time. So in conclusion, just to really focus on my 3 points that I think help drive us and shape the way we market our movies is we, number one, have to know what our biggest asset is and really build the whole campaign around that. But number two, I always see marketing as solving a major problem, and you're always really focused on how do you get over your problem, whatever it may be. And I think the synergy between these three divisions is essential, and I think it really can get lost in the crazy, fast-paced world we all live in. But with every social media idea, you should really be thinking about PR and paid media extensions to extend the life of what it is and to really enhance what is essentially an organic process, but I think requires the stability and the extensions that paid media and PR offer. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Lee Micon, Senior Vice President of Insights and Strategy for 360i.
Well, smattering of applause, thank you. I have the good fortune of following Brad Pitt, J.J. Abrams, Star Trek, which I was just looking, I'm fortunate in that I could have been following downstairs at Bioprocess International right now, purification strategies for novel modalities and high-density cell culture. Oh, that was yesterday, so you're stuck with me. So I am going to talk a little bit today about sharing, obviously the theme of today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what the X factor for sharing is. And it's really a pleasure to be here. It's a sort of exhilarating, confusing, interesting time in our industry, and I think that there's a lot really to discuss. And to be frank, this is me, Lee, not Brad Pitt, as I said before, but I struggled a great deal with what to come to talk about today. Talking about how to build a shareable brand, how to explain some of the work that we've done for Oreo mostly and some of our other clients, but particularly Oreo, and thinking about how to best sort of explain it. First of all, just to kind of get it out of the way, pardon me, what do we mean by shareable? What does shareable mean? And there's enough of you and I can't actually see you, so I won't ask you to raise your hands. But I mean, simply put, shareable means something that is designed to be shared. It sounds obvious, kind of, when you just put it up there. It's a word that we've talked about a lot today, but I think that simple definition is something that deserves to be unpacked, deserves to be explained in a way that is useful. And hopefully today, in the next 23 minutes or so and counting, I'll leave you with something useful to take home with you to justify the cost of lunch at the very least. And I think a few years ago, if I were giving this talk, I would probably have to spend a fair amount of time speaking about why we need to share, why sharing is important. And I think Nico earlier did a great job of kind of explaining why that's really no longer the case. And I think a lot of what I'm going to talk about now is much more how we need to share and how we need to share better. And the purpose of a lot of these presentations, I think, is at least something that comes up a lot in conversation, perhaps in theory, not always necessarily in practice. So what would be the best model to talk about this? I could talk about network theory, which actually the leading proponent of sort of the use of epidemiological thinking in business is a guy named Nicholas Christakis, who's based here in Boston, who's fascinating. It's really interesting. I think it really helps explain a lot about how can happen, how things can get shared. And I think I could probably talk a fair amount about Oreo and a brand like Oreo being something that is a social object, much like and actually up against something as viral, if you will, as Gangnam Style, which at last count had well over 1 billion views. And so this is something that we as marketers are competing against, something that we need to take into account when we do what we do. I have a case study that I'm going to share that I think starts to explain, so I'm going to share that and we'll see how this stacks up as a model. And this is starting last year at the Super Bowl, so I'm starting a little bit sort of at the end of the story. So actually, when you see that, you realize that just this notion of the network effect and the virality of content is actually an insufficient model to explain this, because this was the result of months, actually years of hard work thinking about and creating the muscle memory for a brand. So to really become truly a shareable brand. So I kind of kept thinking, and I'm still thinking about what the right model is to explain it. I think another way to think about the power of a brand and creating a truly shareable brand and getting at that X factor of a brand that's designed to be shared is that of shared values. Shared values is something that we as advertisers talk a lot about. Great social marketing, in fact, great marketing is at its core about connecting between the values of a brand, the intrinsic qualities of a brand, and the extrinsics and the values that we have. And Oreo obviously is one that's all about connection. There's an author, again, nice little Boston connection, Douglas Holt, who I believe lives here, who wrote a lot about, wrote a book about 10 years ago called When Brands Become Icons, which is all about how brands become icons when they speak to a particular moment in time or culture, even if it's as simple as what Oreo did during the Super Bowl. And a lot of the work that we did preceding the Super Bowl, the muscle memory that we built up, was definitely the result of shared values, connection, positivity, seeing the world in an innocent way. And there's other work that we did that I think I can share as well. Here we go.
How does a product that hasn't changed a lick in 100 years find its way to the center of the cultural dialogue? It takes a lot of bravery and a little swagger. The strategy was to reimagine pop culture through the eyes of Oreo. We called it Daily Twist, an ambitious exercise in real-time culture jacking. 100 days, 100 twists. Oreo translated each piece of pop culture into shareable social content. Agency partners and brand stakeholders created a virtual newsroom, collaborating to create a new piece of content every single day. It was a risky move for our 100-year-old brand, but we believed in the power of real-time social content. See, it wasn't just about making stuff. It was about creating a platform for conversation. We made the content talkable. And people talked. And for the final twist, we handed it over to our fans to decide. Daily Twist became a living, breathing part of culture, just like Oreo has been for over a century. Some pretty important people noticed. From classic cookie to media darling, we've changed the way a new generation experiences Oreo, and we're just getting started.
So if you were to break this down in terms of shared values, there's definitely something there, but the shared values of Oreo enough with consumers and building upon that platform is actually would not have necessarily guaranteed our success. Again, something of an insufficient model, but one that kind of bears starting to build upon. So once you have those shared values, and all of you as marketers and folks from agencies and media partners all work with brands that have deep and abiding principles and great product sort of experiences that you can take advantage of. This is, I think, a slide that I could break down and talk about sort of, and actually this is in a way probably a little bit of what you came here for, is how did we do it? So when you go home, you can take a picture of the slide and talk about it a little bit, and again justify having spent the day here, I hope. And a lot of this, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, but understanding the audience, having the right digital architecture, creating a social tone of voice, analytics, understanding the nature of the community and what made it different from the traditional Oreo media target, extending that into social platforms. But the fact of the matter is that this also, it's useful to explain how we managed to create that degree of luck and mechanize it almost, if you will, over the course of a couple of, over 100 days or even over the course of 6 months. But it doesn't explain to you something that I promised you at the beginning of the presentation, which is explaining that X factor of really what makes a shareable brand, truly a shareable brand. And so spent a lot of time with this. Like Nico, I too have kids, a 9-year-old daughter, a 7-year-old son, spent a lot of time talking to them about it, and realized that with their help, in fact, that the model to help better explain the X factor of the shareable brand, a brand like Oreo, and a lot of the work that we did is something quite different. And I'd like to introduce you to, of all things, One Direction. One Direction is the latest in a great tradition of boy bands. If you have been living under a rock or in Mars for the last year, perhaps you don't know who they are, and we'll talk a little bit more about them. But actually, these guys and the work that they've done over the last 3 years, in a way, helps me better understand the work that we've done in Oreo, and a better way of explaining to you the success that we've had with Oreo, with Ben & Jerry's, and with other clients that we have at the agency. And I'm going to tell you why. You can poo-poo these guys as much as you want with their fancy suits and tight jeans, but that would make you an exceedingly poor student of history, of bands, and of brands. As I mentioned before, they're only the latest in a series of boys in bands. Boston alone has contributed 2 of the greats. New Kids on the Block, of course, and New Edition. And they're in there somewhere. And we have a lot to learn from them. I think what's made these guys successful is only accelerated by social media, but it's something that at its basics, there's a certain kind of core model at work here. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about what that is. So when you leave here today, you're going to better understand what this X factor for the shareable brand is, and a little bit of the recipe to avoid being a one-hit wonder. These are the ingredients of the recipe. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of them. 1, fundamentals. Secondly, personalities, not just personality. 3rd, fans. 4th, having the right mindset for being a mentor, building up a set of allies. And then there's one other thing that I hope I'll leave you with as well. So first of all, I started telling you a little bit about the history of these fellas. About 3 years ago, these 5 separate guys were on the X Factor in the UK. They all washed out. And Simon Cowell, of all people, saw them and saw something in each and every one of them and decided to put them together into a supergroup that would compete in the next X Factor. And solely because of the passion of their fans, what began with tens and then hundreds and then thousands of teenage girls all over the UK and then Europe and then beyond, these five guys, One Direction, caught on and exploded all over the world, right into all of our homes. Okay, so how? First of all, the fundamentals. The fundamental thing here is that these guys can actually sing. They can actually sing. They've got a great sound, terrific charisma. Believe me, with a 9-year-old daughter, I want to hate them. I really do. These are the first guys who have come into my house, with the exception of, well, there's always that one kid who your daughter gets to be friends with who you keep an eye on. But for me, that's who One Direction is, and I like them despite that, and I actually enjoy some of their songs, and it's because of the quality of the production, the quality of the singing, and the fact that they actually can't dance makes them that much more endearing and gives them a little bit of legitimacy in today's world. In the case of Oreo, it's fundamentally, it's the social cookie. It's something intrinsically true to Oreo, more true than any other cookie out there. 2 pieces of cookie, cream in the middle. It's almost always enjoyed over a table with a glass of milk between 2 children, parents and children, and so on. We did a lot of the work to understand those fundamentals better over the course of our relationship with the brand, spending a lot of time understanding the fact that their online and social audience were distinct and different from their target in the rest of the world, if you will. Secondly, we worked hard to define their social tone of voice. And third, we created a library, almost a laboratory, if you will, of social content and understood on a day-by-day basis what was working, what about it was working, digging into that community to really test the success of real-time content and understand what about it worked. So the question to ask yourself, based on the work of the esteemed One Direction as well as the work that we did for Oreo, is, do you have a foundation for sharing? Again, a deceptively simple question to ask yourself, but something that I'm not sure that we all do sufficiently, or if we ask ourselves, we ask it every once in a while, check a box and move on. Ask yourself, does the brand that you're working on have a true foundation for sharing? Secondly, personalities. One Direction, despite its name, is made up of 5 guys, funny and confident, romantic and mysterious. Each one of them has their own personality. And as you get to know the band, and if you're a 9-year-old girl, you really start to appreciate the different sort of facets of personality that each one gives. Again, this is nothing new. People who loved the Beatles in the 60s loved each one of the band members for a different reason. If you love the Rolling Stones, there's a reason you love. Even Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band has always had that kind of multifaceted personality. The problem is, most of the people in this room, and myself included, grew up in an era, or at least working on, and again, this slide is not meant to represent the current state of these brands, but rather the era from which they grew. And I at least grew up, Tide was my first client. The unique selling proposition at that point in time was the thing we talked about. And yes, we still need One Direction for a brand, but the reasons why we fall in love with brands has changed over time. I think today, the notion that a brand can have multiple personalities, all sort of operating off the same core set of values, but different facets to its personality, is integral to the success of a great brand. I think Oreo, in the sort of universality of the cookie, discovered lots of different ways to talk about itself that then allowed us to extend this platform in lots of different places and ways. In the case of your brand, the question that I have for you is, does your personality have personality? There's a great author, a guy by the name of John Grant, who wrote a book called The Brand Innovation Manifesto, which I encourage you to read, or at least flip through. Fantastic. And he talks about the power of cohesive brands, not necessarily consistent brands. And I think that that's a great question for you is, do you have a cohesive set of things that you do to bring out the many facets of your personality? Does the personality of your brand have that personality? Next, the fans. I mean, you cannot see One Direction without them going out of their way to thank their fans. In the film that's out right now, This Is Us, directed by, of all people, Morgan Spurlock, which is fantastic, I think. But there's a great animation where they're talking about the early success of the band that shows one tweet going off in London while the boys were on stage during X Factor. And then that, in turn, sort of the arrows sort of blossom and bloom out to cover the UK, and then Europe, and then the world. I mean, it's almost like those World War II movies where they're pushing soldiers across the field. But it's this incredibly energetic and inspiring animation. And it goes back to something that Megan was talking about before, I think, which is to think about how are you connecting to those fans, but also, too often as marketers, as content creators, we think about the content we create. We get so stuck on like perfecting the 30-second spot and like the beat of the music is off and like the 12th second. And we think so much about finding the best possible way, and then the second the content is created, we're done. We're done. We did our job. Now it's the media agency's problem. Thank God. Let's go to the bar. I remember, just always thinking about how odd it was to be invited to a kickoff party for a campaign, because I was always worried that something had been messed up, and that because we were all at the party, something was going horribly wrong, and we were all too much in the Johnny Walker Black to take care of it. And I think the question for you, though, is how are you taking care of that work, that content, going forward? In the case of Oreo, at the end of the campaign, or during the course of the campaign, we focused more on just content worth sharing and focused on fomenting the community that wanted to share it. As you saw in one of the case studies, the last piece of content that we did to really make sure that we kept a vested interest in the ongoing health of the campaign was getting the people who were part of the community to help create that content, not just voting on it, but making suggestions. We brought that to life in a real world event where people could stop by and make suggestions. This is just one way that we did it, but I think it's really, really important to think about how are you taking care of the fans? Again, a deceptively simple question, but who's your community? Not just your Facebook page, not just the 500,000 or million or 2 million people who you have there, but who is truly your community? Who will care about that content? Who will care about that thing that you just made? And not just in ASI testing, but in the world. That's something that's actually worthy of being shared and being passed along, that people are going to really feel passionate about. Next to last, the mentors, the allies. You may not like this man. In fact, I'm fairly certain that most of you don't. But Simon Cowell is a tremendously powerful mentor. In this case, to the fellows in One Direction, he's the one who saw their great intrinsic talent and saw a way to connect boys who would otherwise have been failures and turn them into global superstars. He has single-handedly created hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, of value out of being a mentor, out of being generous with his time, with his talent, with his desire to make other people better. And sure, he makes a lot of money as a result as well, but he is finding that X factor inside of each and every one of them and fomenting it and bringing it out and making those connections and pouring his own passion into it. So the question is, in our case, in Oreo, we had our mentors in our clients. We had tremendously supportive clients who were tremendously ambitious and excited, and we had the president of our agency who had a vested interest ongoing in the success of the campaign. We each then wanted to behave as mentors to each other, to be generous with our time, to look for ways to help make our work better. Our relationship with the other agencies that we worked with. 360i was only one of the agencies who worked on all of this work with other agencies, with Draft FCB, with Wieden & Kennedy, and with our media partners as well at Starcom MediaVest. And that was what was integral to our success, is really thinking about who those mentors were and who the allies were. You know, one tweet, frankly, would not have probably carried very far. There were other brands who tweeted when the lights went out in the Super Bowl, and we're quite clever. We don't have a monopoly on being smart, clever, funny, as much as perhaps sometimes I would like to think I do. But we were able to quickly galvanize the support because we built up the muscle memory over the course of the Daily Twist, over the course of the kind of building of this Facebook community, and we had a room full of people at the ready while we were placing advertising during the Super Bowl, thinking about how we were going to respond to the advertising, frankly. But then, because the muscle memory was there, when the lights went out, as soon as we realized that something wasn't going wrong, terribly wrong, we had the team in place to capitalize on that, to really take advantage. We had an art director, a designer, we had a copywriter, a strategy person thinking about who's in the community and how they would respond to this content, as well as a client, legal. I mean, it takes a lot of people to make this happen, but it takes a lot of those people in turn to reach out to other influencers and talk to them about what we're doing and give them a vested reason to carry it on. So one last thing is obviously just thinking about how are you a mentor? How are you galvanizing your allies, and how are you building that relationship over time? Do you have them? Are you operating as one? Do you have that passion, and are you fomenting that passion in others? I think lastly, and if there's one thought that I want to leave you with, and one last thing that I think is critical for that X factor, that thing that really makes the brand, the band stand out, is this. It's the power of the breakout. It's the power of that breakout moment when somebody really is paying attention, the whole band is paying attention, and you've realized that you have a moment where you can really break through, where you go from being just another cookie to being somebody who has a role, or a brand that has a role in culture, where you're just another band, another bunch of guys in leather jackets, to someone who's truly shaping the culture around you. And in the case of the Beatles, they had their moment on the Ed Sullivan Show. In the case of One Direction, they had their moment on the X Factor. And this is where I ask you guys to ask yourselves, what is your breakout moment? Of the brands that you're working with, who is your breakout star? And what are you doing to be the next big star, the next voice that can really shape and create culture around you and the work that you do? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fred Graver, head of TV for Twitter.
Hello? Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Nice to see you. Has anybody used this yet? Where's the clicker? Here it is. Of course, when you watch TV, it's always where's the clicker. Let's see. Nobody's used this yet. Nice. I wanted to start out by talking about my family. There was a joke. It was supposed to work there. This is, by the way, this is the way my family looks when I go home to visit them in the Midwest. This is who I think I'm seeing. There should be a filter on Twitter for like, here's the actual picture, and then here's what I think I'm seeing, how I feel. Hi, I'm Fred Graver. I'm the head of TV at Twitter. And we're going to talk about sharing, because I can stay on topic as well as anybody. This is the old audience, right? This audience does not exist anymore. Has anybody here tried to get their whole family to watch TV together? You feel like a freak just saying, no, let's all gather around. And what are you going to watch? You're not going to watch True Blood with your teenager. Ain't going to happen. And if you do, by the way, you should think about that choice. It doesn't happen. This audience does not exist. And if they did exist, they would probably look like this, right? They would all be holding devices. They would all be looking down at a screen. They'd all be talking to somebody else about what is going on the screen in front of them. Here's where I start to sound like an Aaron Sorkin character. 80%, I just have lots of statistics. And then I say it in a really emotionally distressed way. 80% of the audience watching TV right now watches with a device in their hands. 60% of the Twitter audience is on mobile devices. 40% of that audience is searching for more about what they're watching. They're looking for information about the cast. They're looking for the talent. Nielsen gave us a really interesting and stunning statistic. 50% of the people who sit down to watch TV don't know what they're going to watch when they sit down. I don't know who these people are. I don't know where they live. I don't get it. Like, I got like a list in my head, but these people sit down, and then Comcast told us that if their EPG were a website, it would be the 3rd largest visited website in America. So clearly there's a lot of people sitting on the couch just scrolling through, but they're also looking on Twitter. They're looking for, what am I going to watch? What's going on? What are my friends watching? What are they talking about? 43% of the audience actually uses devices to find out what to watch. Then they watch it, and there's a social conversation. 95% of that conversation happens on Twitter. Of the public conversation. And most of the conversation is public. The great thing about Twitter is it's live. It's in the moment. It's where you share the great events of life. And for many of us, some of those great events are the Red Wedding on Game of Thrones. It's the last episode of Breaking Bad. These are things you really want to talk to people about. It's public. There's no algorithm. There's no edge rank. There's nothing shielding you from the fact that you're saying something, somebody else is saying something, a friend passes that on to you. Next thing you know, you're talking to Kerry Washington and Oprah. 50% of Twitter users access Twitter while they're watching TV. 30% of Twitter users are tweeting about TV. This is not our slide, it's Nielsen's slide. The Twitter audience doubles. The audience on Twitter talking about TV doubles about every year. So at the end of last year, we had about 18 million unique people tweeting about Twitter. We know that we're a good 50% above that now, and just growing along. This is a nice story. My boss, Chloe Sladden, started at Twitter about 4 years ago, knocking on the doors of networks and TV shows and saying, hey, there's this thing and you might want to use it. What she was also noticing, and what everybody notices now, is that Twitter wasn't designed as the second screen for TV, but it certainly was the audience choice. And over time, this has grown and grown and grown, so that recently, 60% of the shows on primetime TV had some kind of Twitter integration, right? And 20%, they had hashtags, they had lower thirds, they had live tweeting. 20% of the 60%, you can do the math later, or the arithmetic is really more, it's not really math. 20% of those integrations featured some kind of verbal call to action to Twitter, some kind of poll, some kind of big audience thing. So Twitter has really become a big, big part of the TV landscape. Where it's evolved from, my own involvement with Twitter, I was working with Tony Bourdain at the Travel Channel, and this was about 3 years ago, and we decided, oh, Tony, you should live tweet your episodes. So I called Twitter to get permission, and Chloe, who's now my boss, picked up the phone. And she it was great. She did this like, well, you have to follow the guidelines, and we're going to send you some broadcast standards, and there's some graphics, and there's some things. And I'm like, I'm writing it down, like, oh my God, I got to get this Twitter thing right. And then later on, I learned she hangs up the phone. She's like, yes, somebody called. But 2-3 years ago, it was a nice experiment, right? It was the first chance for broadcasters to go, I could touch the audience on the other side of the screen. So for Bourdain, it was huge. He started live tweeting an episode, people started tweeting back to him, he became addicted, and his ratings went up, right? He began live tweeting, he's in Chile somewhere, the show's going on in America, and he figures out the time zone so he can talk to people about the show while it's airing. Today, the entire industry is looking at Twitter and realizing that you can build the audience, you can start to build tune in. There's a whole chain of events I'm going to start talking about that we've begun to embrace. We've become part of the TV business. And what's coming up is that the TV, we're going to see how the audience can be measured and how it can be monetized. So we're kind of becoming part of the TV industry in a very, very big way. And the reason is because of sharing. right? And I'm not just doing that to be part of the theme. The whole point here is what's important with Twitter is it's not just broadcast. It's not, it's not just like a TV channel. It's not like you can put something on Twitter and it just goes out. And it's not just that it can go out and then somebody can talk back to you. It's actually when it goes out there, something happens. Something really special happens out there in Twitter when the audience starts sharing the content that you put out there, particularly when it's related to television. The jokes are funnier. The dramatic moments are that much better. With sports, you hear the roar of the crowd just a little louder because you're sitting there watching your friends. You're sitting there watching people you wish were your friends, that you follow, that you're just funny or great or dramatic. And things start to happen like Wendy Davis on the floor of the Texas Senate, right? This woman gets up 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night in the middle of the summer, starts talking. By 10 o'clock that night, she's pretty much the next senator from Texas. And it was because people started sharing that image, talking about it, giving it importance and giving it meaning, making it part of their own story. And that's what happens with television every night on Twitter. And it looks something like this. Many people show up at conferences or events like this and go, here's a tape that we made to show you how great our company is. We did not make this. This tape was made by the cast of Scandal.
Someone shot my husband! You need to check on him!
When we live tweet every episode, it's just awesome.
We voluntarily show up with great enthusiasm and maybe obsession.
As the show is airing, people are reacting.
That excitement is contagious.
I think they feel a connection with us because we're responding to their questions about a certain scene.
I feel like that really got spread the word and got people really excited.
The person they're looking for, the one they think shot the president, that's me.
It's a nice relationship that we get to thank them every week.
Every week we were checking the ratings and sort of sweating whether we were going to be on the following week to show that people are talking about, people are buzzing about, and I think a lot of that talk and buzz was generated through social media.
You need to watch how you treat the prisoner on American soil.
Oprah, that's how she found out about Scandal and was like, wow, a lot of people are on Twitter talking about it, so I think I need to watch the show. I try to always answer the people who are diehard fans.
A lot of them tweet us back and say how they've recruited gladiators. We call ourselves gladiators.
It's gladiators, the gladiators.
It's so much fun tweeting with the gladiators.
The hashtags are amazing.
Fans are sometimes even ahead of us creating their own.
I'm Quinn Bitch. I get tweeted that hashtag all the time.
The show is a smart, exciting, witty show, and so the fact that the hashtags are cool and witty in that same way, it sort of fits in with the whole culture of what we're doing.
It expands the community because when you put that question out there, then everybody starts answering. It's a Scandal party on Twitter every Thursday night. We shut it down.
Tell me you shut it down.
I'll shut it down.
Shut it down. That's one of my favorites.
Very good.
I would kill to have a job where I could just look at people and go, shut it down. Awesome. So that's the Scandal story. And the Scandal story is actually kind of a great illustration of that kind of thing that happens when tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people start sharing on Twitter. So the cast of Scandal, they came on mid-season at the beginning, end of the 2011-2012 season. And they were a mid-season replacement. Kerry Washington and Shonda Rhimes decided we should live tweet every episode. And we had a tangential involvement. We gave them some do's and don'ts. That was it. They went crazy. They organized their own parties. They started sending vines and pictures. They started doing all kinds of stuff. I'll show you a little bit later what kind of traffic it got and what kind of ratings they were getting, but they did nicely. Then, at the beginning of the 2012-2013 season, somebody named Oprah Winfrey began tweeting with them every night when Scandal went on. Oh, by the way, during the summer when they were in reruns, they were live tweeting the reruns as well. I joke that a great best practice for Twitter is to get Oprah to tweet about your show. If you can do that, you can probably do pretty well. But in this particular case, people were getting on, and literally the ABC was telling us they were getting messages. I signed on to Twitter so I could talk to Kerry Washington or watch the conversation between Kerry and Oprah. So it's live, it's public, it's a conversation, it's awesome. ABC began doing lower thirds, tweet live with the cast from Scandal. They noticed how big Kerry's audience was. They decided to go from lower thirds to actually running
Scandal, all new tonight, 10/9 Central on ABC. And tweet live with Kerry Washington and the cast of Scandal during tonight's show.
And the ratings kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And there last February, they beat Elementary, and they have held the #1 slot pretty much all the way through. They're an awesome cast, and it's a big Twitter success story. This year, on NBC, on ABC, on CBS, practically every show has got live tweeting casts. It is a big deal, and it's an amazing thing that happens when talent starts talking, unites around TV, and there's a big role for advertisers there that I'm going to get into. When people get on Twitter and they're watching TV and they begin sharing, there's a bunch of stuff that we know that they do. We've looked at the data. First thing they do is they do look for like what's on. Like, what are other people watching? What do other people care about? They look at who's here, or they announce I'm here, right? Your timeline at the beginning of every hour fills up with people. Who else is watching Breaking Bad? Who else is watching The Voice? You know, retweet if you're watching whatever. Then they look for the talent. They look for the talent and they look for the shows. More the talent than the shows. 80 to 85% of the most active tweets, the ones that are most retweeted, the ones that are most favorited, that are shared, come from the shows themselves or from the talent. When they get great content from the shows, and a lot of what my team works on, and I'll show you some examples in a little bit, we work on what kind of content can you put into the stream that people are going to want to share with each other, right? You know, Lee talked a little bit about the breakout, about like the Oreo thing. We work with that all the time. We're trying to go like, okay, if you're Breaking Bad or Revolution or whatever, The Voice, Idol, what do you throw out there that people can share because they want to look cool, they want to share with their friends, they want to go, look at this, look what I found, right? They also act as a kind of TV guide. This is good or this is bad. David Zaslav, who runs the CEO of Discovery, told us that when he puts an episode on the air of a new series, he watches Twitter and he goes about 6 minutes. I know if it's working or not. I don't need the ratings tomorrow morning. I know while I'm watching. And finally, if they develop an affinity for your show, for your network, for the talent, they want more. Show me more of what I'm already liking. So I'm going to do something here. This is Media Innovation Day. And people rarely, when they talk about innovation, goes, oh, by the way, things can really flop. Things can just go south. What I'm about to do now could go south really quick. I'm hoping. I've been trying to build a kind of unified field theory around what happens with Twitter and media and how it all works together. And more to the point, if you're at any different point in the chain here, how can you think about working with the other points in the chain? At lunch, a bunch of us who were speaking here were talking about media companies and ad agencies and brands, are divided up into these silos now, right? You've got the digital team, you've got the digital marketing team, you've got the marketing team that isn't the digital marketing team or the digital team. You've got the PR team that deals with the talent, but not the talent that deals with social media. social media doesn't talk to on-air doesn't talk to marketing isn't talking to programming. Big mess. How do you put all that together? I think there's a way of using actually social and Twitter as the river that runs through all of this. So let's start with the talent, right? You'd be arrogant to say that you we're doing anything more important than the people who inspire these amazing characters and inspire these amazing stories and inspire the conversation. They create the content. It gets discovered by the audience. And the best possible outcome is a kind of breakout moment, right? That live moment where content, the experience of watching TV, sharing on Twitter all come together. And remember that live moment because it becomes part of the link of what I think this chain is. You experience that live moment and you get very loyal, which then inspires the talent to make more content for you. So take last Sunday's Breaking Bad. AMC created a series of slides for Aaron Paul to use while he was live tweeting. Slides like, yeah, bitch, or slides for scenes that just defied description. He sent them out, people shared them like crazy. AMC told people that Aaron Paul was live tweeting. They helped them discover this stuff. They began to create that kind of live moment, right? And he built real loyalty. This is a chart, it's a little bit of an eye chart. You can't read it. I'll tell you what I want you to know about it. Aaron got 91,000 new followers Sunday night. He's at 1 million now. He was retweeted 142,000 times. What is also really interesting, his wife has a charity that he tweeted about every 4 or 5 tweets. That charity got 147,000 new visitors when Aaron was tweeting during the hour. It was a big, successful hour for him and obviously a big, successful hour for Breaking Bad. So there's the talent, connecting with the audience in that live moment. That live moment has the audience then searching for new things, searching for things that are kind of an affinity. Can I find more things? Can I find more things from that show? I want to connect and engage. I want to share them with my friends. How can I do this stuff? How can I make this a bigger experience than I'm already having? So you take a show like Duck Dynasty. That's right, I went from Breaking Bad to Duck Dynasty. I have no shame. Duck Dynasty started doing some stuff. We started playing around with them, and then again, that big question was, what can you throw into the stream that will work? I realized I got 6 minutes, I got to talk fast. They put out these slides. They put out video that were making fun of the episode during the episode to alert people that the episode was on. This is where they were in season 1. This is where they were in season 2. In season 3, the yellow bar is the tweets. This is the uniques. That's the ratings. They just killed it. And what they told us is that that whole activity that they were doing helped to aggregate the audience. Anybody who had ever watched Duck Dynasty or had a feeling about Duck Dynasty or had an affinity for it was alerted that the show was on the air. They changed the channel and they started watching. So networks and studios are hugely interested in that connecting moment. They are interested in building loyalty. And Bravo does a great job of this, right? So if somebody gets kicked off of Top Chef Masters, they tweet, go look at what happened with this guy. And then they have a bit of video that you can see. They have a whole web series.
This is Battle of the Sous Chefs.
With the rejects.
Brought to you by the Lexus RX.
Brought to you by Lexus. Right? So there's a whole thing there, right? You get loyal to that. Bravo TV is especially good at marketing to people who have an affinity for their shows. One of the things they do is they don't have show accounts. They have one account, @Bravo TV. And that's what they keep pushing. That's what they keep feeding to people. I'm going to skip this stuff because I only got 4 minutes here. Twitter's really important. That's all you need to know. So where does this leave advertisers, right? So you've got this great moment when people are watching. You want to connect with them. You want to send them a message right when they're watching that connects with what they're seeing on the air. And it could be, with your own ad. It could be connected to content that's related to the show. It could be connecting to the talent, right? So you might be like Jaguar. You've got a great ad on the air. You send out a tweet. The tweet, though, has the hashtag #MyTurnToJag. Yeah, we're in Boston. You guys know what I'm talking about here. Because first thing, if there's an on-air mention, it dwarfs any other activity in the account. Did great, terrific. Built a lot of positive sentiment, 40% positive sentiment, 58% negative, based off of the word jag. People just pointed out that it wasn't a very wise hashtag. We're working a lot with advertisers and with networks to create content opportunities where the networks can put things onto Twitter. They preserve the revenue from that, right? So we're a complement to TV. We're in there and we're helping their business model. And then the content lives within Twitter like this video here from Brad Kozlowski's car during a NASCAR race.
Let's get around the corner.
We did great stuff around NASCAR. We did great stuff around the Final Four. We're doing great stuff in the future around shows, sending replays, sneak peeks, all of that kind of stuff. There is a chain there, right? And there's a way for everybody, I think, to begin to work with each other. And it kind of goes right across a simple river of kind of content, creates these great live moments and engagement. It drives to tune in. We're beginning to see this from Nielsen now. They just released a study a couple of months ago that said, yep, there you go. The Twitter audience is actually beginning to drive to tune in. I think as we get better at this, there will be much more around that. And it builds real loyalty. It builds loyalty to networks. It builds loyalty to talent. It builds loyalty to brands. That's what the Nielsen Twitter TV rating is going to be doing. The rating is going to take, if you know Social Guide, it'll be tweets per unique. And then the big number, the big really interesting thing is the reach, the number of impressions that are created by the conversation. Now, we've begun working with Nielsen on this. I'm going to show you a number. It's not a real number. It's a laboratory number. It's a bunch of guys in Florida with white coats trying to, get mice to watch TV. I don't know what they do down there. It's right, 50 to 100 times the impressions, right? So you've got now you've got a TV audience. You might have gotten 30,000 tweets about a show, but it might have created 3 million impressions. So now you're really dealing with something. And then our ad sales people can do amazing things around targeting that conversation, targeting shows, reaching that audience again and again and again, because they're loyal to the content, they've engaged with it, they had those great moments on Twitter, they're loyal to the talent, and you can become part of that conversation. So the power of Twitter, this is where I think we're different from other social networks, where I think ultimately we are going to grow up and evolve with the TV industry in a really big way. We're live. We're right in front of you. We are the event. We're the thing that's happening right now. We're public. You see the whole conversation on Twitter. There's no algorithms. There's no edge rank. There's no anything else. That conversation is right there, and it is a conversation. Things change. Meanings change. It is exactly what happens on Monday morning when you walk in and you go, "Did you watch Breaking Bad last night?" Somebody says something and you go, "I hadn't thought of that." Those kind of wonderful moments happen on Twitter while people are watching TV all the time. And then the big thing about the power of Twitter is we have set ourselves up as a complement, not only to the TV industry, but really to the ad industry as well. And we are all about working together with you to be a great distribution medium, to be a great revenue source. That chain that I kind of showed there, again, it's a model. I'm playing with it. I'm trying to figure out, is that right? People at Twitter, we talk about this all the time. The best thing is I know that we're all going to be working on this together. There is a huge thing happening here in television. There's a huge thing happening in media where the audience the theater is so big now and so ever present. And it's incredibly exciting to be part of that. So thank you for having me here so I could fly this weird model of stuff out to you. I'll be hanging around so you can pillory me later. It's been a delight being here. I should have said this up front. Being at the Ad Club is regarded at Twitter as a very cool gig. When you guys invited me, we were going like, "Oh my God, Adam Bain did it, all these other people, it's a great place." So it's been great to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope this has been helpful.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mike DiGiovanni, Emerging Technology Lead from Round Arch Isobar.
Back. Hi guys. I absolutely love Google Glass. This is one of the most exciting technologies that I've had the opportunity to work with as a developer in a long, long time. Probably since before the first phone started getting internet connections. Because of that, I wear this pretty much 24/7 outside of sleeping, charging, which it does have to charge a lot, and showering. I wear it. And because I'm out and about, moving through cities, traveling a lot for work, I see a lot of people, and they do come up to me and ask me what this is. About 75% of them actually know that's Google Glass. And of those people, the question they usually first ask is it as cool as it seems? And absolutely it is. As you can see by what I just said, how I wear it all the time, it is absolutely unbelievably fun when you buy into it and really use it. Now, the other 25% think it's some medical device, but they've got over the initial scariness of actually asking somebody what that is. And once you start to explain that it's this wearable computer that's on your face and you're seeing all these things and you're kind of floating out there and getting notifications, emails, text messages to you, they want to know, how much does it cost? Right now it's $1,500, which as a developer device, that's a drop in the bucket. We've all spent more for less polished hardware. As a consumer thing, not sure that I could have convinced myself or my wife to let me spend that money if I was just going to be using it as a normal person. But I imagine when it hits the general availability, it's going to be much, much cheaper, and it'll be worth every penny, even if it costs as much as an unsubsidized smartphone. And it's created conversations in places that you don't normally talk to people. Elevators. I can't remember the last time I've actually spoken or even made eye contact with someone in an elevator, but at my hotel, every time I've gone up to my room, I've had somebody stop and get off at my floor to keep talking about this thing. One of the other questions is, how can you get it? Right now, you have to be one of a select chosen few. There were 2,000 developers that got their hands on it by attending a conference. 8,000 people won the opportunity to purchase it. Regular people that wanted to take photos of their kid being born, wedding days, just kind of wanted to see what this new technology was, even though they never even got the chance to experience it on their own. And they're actually slowly giving invites out to those people that they could seed among their social circles, their real social circles, and see how interaction happens once a group of people, your best friend, your wife, your coworker, all gets in, how you communicate between them. So, back. I apologize. Can we go back one slide? There we go. I want to kind of give a short history of the modern wearables, kind of give an idea of where we've been, what kind of stuff has really caught on with consumers, and how we wound up at Glass. I like to think of the modern wearable getting its start with Nike Plus, when they put out that dongle that you plug into an iPod, and people are putting this little wearable device in their shoe, all these sensors in there that are sending data back out. And that really caught on with the public more than like any sort of other thing in modern times. That was 2006. 2 years later, in 2008, they released the sport band that got you away from having to have an iPod with you, and did similar information. They expanded that into the Fuel bands most recently. Other competitors have come out with other fitness devices, Fitbit, Jawbone. And those have all been really passive. There's sensors in there. Things eventually get back to your computer. You can look at things online and share what you've done, your races, your exercise with other friends. At the same time, but at a much slower pace, smartwatches have started to pick up. Microsoft released their Spot watch almost a decade ago, and that was just unbelievably ahead of its time for what it did. And in more recent years, Fossil's had a technology watch division who's put out smart watches that interact with your phone and get text messages and phone calls and tell you who's calling without having to pull your phone out of your pocket. And that's much more discreet than having a loud ringer. You have something vibrates on your wrist, take a quick look, and a lot of people like to screen their calls, so you don't even have to touch your phone to kind of ignore it and silence it. And then last year, the Pebble smartwatch showed up on Kickstarter and absolutely blew funding all records away. In 5 days, they hit millions of dollars. And that started all these other smartwatches coming out and trying to ride on the coattails of that success. And that was a little less passive. You get more information on your wrist. You can interact back and forth with internet services. But you didn't really have too much sharing involved. It was just kind of, here's your information. Maybe it'll dismiss something, change a track for music. And then Google Glass was announced. And last year, or 2 years ago, I think, at Google I/O, we had this big kind of show-offy event of skydivers coming down wearing Google Glass and in real time sharing what they were seeing as they were landing on top of the Moscone Center in San Francisco. And then they handed those off to guys rappelling down the side of the building, and then guys on bikes riding up to the stage to turn that over to Sergey Brin. And that really captured the public's eye. It wasn't something that any one of us is probably ever going to do anything near that, but it was exciting, and it didn't even show the capabilities of Glass beyond just being a fancy GoPro, a video strapped to your head. But then in January of this year, Google let 200 developers into hackathons in San Francisco and New York, and that was really the first time that any developers outside of Google got to try their hand at Glass and even see what the user interface was like, and we were all blown away by how impressive and polished it was. After having seen basically nothing before that. April of this year, Glass devices started going out to developers, and those first 2,000 developers. In June of this year, they started going out to those other 8,000 people, the average user who wanted to use stuff, and everyone started getting really, really excited as Glass started showing up in strange places, and conversations started happening. So rather than just spout off some features of Glass, let me show you this next video that Google put together kind of to show some of the use cases for Glass.
Okay, Glass, record a video.
This is it. We're on in 2 minutes.
Okay, Glass, hang out with the Flying Club.
Google photos of tiger heads.
You ready? You ready? Right there. Okay, Glass, take a picture.
That is awesome.
Okay, Glass, record a video.
After this bridge, first exit.
Google, stay delicious in Thai.
Arroy.
Arroy.
Google, jellyfish.
Well, let's see. It's beautiful.
But what's it really like? we're not circus performers, we're not people on stage. A handful of those use cases definitely apply to us. Showing first-person videos of where you are is a really great use case. Hanging out with somebody when you're in a new city and they're back home, showing them what it's like to be there. My personal favorite thing is the GPS navigation. One of the other questions I'm usually asked about Glass is, does it get in the way? Absolutely not. I believe that this is so much safer than an in-dash unit of GPS in your car, or what a lot of people seem to be doing is getting GPS nav on their phone, throwing it in the seat next to them, and kind of glancing down every few minutes. This Glass is put kind of right next to your rearview mirror, and because of the way the optics work, you're keeping your focus still kind of outside the car. Optically, it's a 25-inch TV about 8 feet away, so it's much easier to quickly glance up and back out the road than it is to shift your focus inside the car and back onto the road. Also great for walking directions. Keeping your head down and walking around Strange City is a recipe for disaster. The roads, there's potholes if you're walking in the street, there's cracked sidewalks, and you're going to wind up tripping looking at your phone. It's just so easy to casually glance, and it whispers in your ear when to make turns. Another great thing is it's smart about emails and notifications that it sends you. It's not sending you everything in your inbox. If you've used Gmail and have embraced the priority inbox, it knows what emails you actually want to hear about and which ones you probably want to take action on immediately. So you'll filter all your important emails through Glass and then eventually get back to your computer, your smartphone, and as is almost always the case, and with myself, I'm archiving and deleting everything that didn't make its way to Glass after just looking at the subject. Twitter is another great thing. There's a handful of people that I really respect and follow on Twitter and want to get everything that they tweet. It's in moderation, and because your way of interaction, replying or retweeting is so simple, it works really well with Glass as an interaction. The weather, throw this on my face in the morning, and I was never someone to embrace weather apps on smartphones. By the time I actually opened that app, I was usually out the door and trying to waste time, and by then it's too late. Glass, the weather's always there. It knows where you're going. It knows where you are. It knows your schedule. It knows if you're gonna take an excursion. Like I came up here, and it knew in that morning that I was gonna be in Boston later on. So it also showed me my home weather, my normal work weather, and Boston weather before I left the house. Birthdays, I never remember my friends' birthdays. And front and center, like weather, birthdays show up in Google Glass if you swipe to the side. Another great app that's out there is called Field Trip. You might have heard of it for smartphones. It just kind of points out some great places you might not be aware of that you're traveling by. An interesting story with this, not everything shows up on Glass, but a few weeks ago I was driving with my wife and my mom, and we had passed this old historic church that my mom had grown up and spent her summers around. She was trying to remember the name of it, and Field Trip had not shown us anything the entire day, and pure coincidence, 3 seconds after her wondering what the name of that church was, it had shown up inside Glass. And it's something like that you just would never imagine how cool that feels. And like I had mentioned before, it knows where you're going. It knew that it was going to Boston and had the weather. It also just had directions waiting for just a few taps to start navigation right in Glass without me having to even say, give me directions to Boston. I was taking the train, so it didn't actually apply, but it was a nice thought. And Glass isn't made for games, but there's one really great fun game out that's developed by, it's called Cyclops. It's by a developer called Sean McCracken. And it kind of uses Glass as, you're kind of like a tank turret shooting space invaders. And you could sit down in a chair and just kind of spin around looking up and shooting at things. And it's so simple and such a great time waster. And I've found myself just spinning around in a chair when I've had time to kill. So what isn't Glass? There's a lot of misconceptions out there because it's not in that many people's hands. Not everyone asks their big questions about Glass. It's not Terminator vision. You're not going to be walking around identifying people, pulling up their Facebook profiles. Google's gone on the record as saying that they will not approve anything that uses facial recognition or voice recognition for other people besides yourself. So you can kind of go down that path, kind of be a little bit rogue, but it's not going to ever be something that is, at least at this point, that's going to be widespread and usable by every glass user. It's not RoboCop vision either. You're not going to. The power's just not there to kind of do object recognition and tracking. It's something that's possible in the future. Better versions with better battery, more processing power, but it's not there yet. It's not X-ray vision. I've had a handful of people in jest ask if I could see through clothes, and I've had another handful that I honestly believe that they really thought people could see through clothes with this. It's not, I promise. And it's not augmented reality. It's supposed to sit above your eye in a way that I'm talking to you, I have no idea that it's on. I'm very animated, and one of the gestures to activate glass is to nod. So for quite a while, I was constantly turning on glass as I'd be talking to people and killing the battery, not realizing it because I'm not actually focusing on glass and not realizing that's actually running. And because it doesn't cover your eyes, you can't really put information about the real world that corresponds to, like, oh, that table of people is from this company, because it doesn't overlay your vision. It's kind of meant when it's on, you look at it and not through it, really. And it's not just a smartphone attached to your face. A lot of people think that it's going to be really hard to read because it's so close to your eye. And like I mentioned before, optically, it's about a 25-inch TV 8 feet away. It's not trying to read really tiny text right up against your eye. It's a whole completely different focal length. Now to sharing. One of the leads of Google X said that the most compelling use case for glass is sharing. And you can see how they've built the entire operating system of glass around that and are pushing developers into expanding on ways to share. When you first get glass, you're very limited in what you can do. Pictures, a lot of the things I said, but the main functionality when you get that demo and you're first playing with it before you really set it up is pictures and video. And front and center, you have share. And starts off integrating into Google+, and all your Google+ contacts are in there. But they've left this open such that any brand, any company can be a sharing contact. And if you have a service that can accept text, photos, video, other notifications that appear on your Google Glass, you set yourself up as a trustworthy brand that somebody could share to, whether it's Evernote, how they want to set themselves up as basically remembering everything that you care about, and you just automatically send them anything that's important that comes through that you don't want to get lost. Whether it's photos, it's videos, it's text, it's notifications. Or Twitter, when you just want to send content out to other people. And another great thing about Glass that I'm really loving is the accessibility to sharing. A lot of people don't have full mobility in their hand, the arms, and it makes interacting with a typical smartphone really hard. There's great accessibility options built into Android and iOS, but a lot of the apps kind of skip over that. Yes, you can navigate the operating system, but when you want to go into an app and start sharing content or creating, things kind of fall apart. And Glass, because it's started with voice navigation, it has all these sensors, it really gives an extra option for people that might not otherwise be able to interact with a smartphone too easily. I spoke to this one woman who does not have full use of her hands, and for her to use a smartphone, she has to put everything down and basically sit on the floor, and she has 2 kids. That's kind of a nightmare. With Glass, she's able to quickly check notifications, without pulling her phone out of her purse. She's able to take pictures now with the wink of an eye. And I've even gone further to expand Winky right now so that if I blink my eye, instead of having to do a head gesture, it'll turn on Glass, another blink to take a picture. I'm working on a proof of concept to have full head head gesture navigation of glass so that you could just, once it's on, you could just kind of sit there and give subtle gestures to completely navigate glass. You don't have that awkwardness of kind of talking to yourself, and you don't have to bring your hand up to your head and start tapping it. It even has use cases for the average person who just couldn't be bothered with interacting normally. So where's glass going? I had mentioned how different services and brands could get into sharing contacts. That area is going to be a hotly contested piece of real estate. There's only so many different contacts that you can fit in glass and still have a user easily get to. And that's why I kind of said that you should, if you're creating a service, you should kind of handle everything, regardless of whether it's your primary focus. If a user will go to you for one thing and one thing only, you're going to start to fall away from that list. They're going to kind of forget about you. It's going to be a chore to get to your contact to share with. But if you start to handle everything, you become that go-to person, that primary. On Glass, I primarily post to Google+ public, and that goes out to basically everything, handles any sort of format I could throw at it. And secondarily, I send stuff out to Twitter as well, which seems to, I haven't tried a video, but it seems to handle photos and text equally well. I'm not a video share. And I'll leave you guys with this one last video of just kind of, this is earlier than the original video of where Google thought Glass might go, and it still might go in the future. Thank you.
Meet me in front of Strand Books at 2. Oh man, really?
Hey there, guy. Hey there, little guy.
Sweet. Remind me to buy tickets for Monsieur Gano tonight. Where's the music section? Oh, yes, this is it. Is Paul here yet? Huh. Hey, dude, how's it going?
Want to go check out that new place I was telling you about?
Sure.
This truck's really good.
Hey, just a second. Cool.
Good to see you again.
Thanks, man.
Got a new place in Outfit City.
See you, dude. Whoa, cool. Take a photo of this. Share it to my circles. Oh, I'm running late. Music, stop.
Hi, what's up?
Hey.
Hey.
You want to say something cool?
Yeah, sure. Is that a ukulele?
Yep. Okay, here goes.
That's beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brian Hunt, Head of Creative Development and Original Programming at Yahoo.
So my walk-on music. Hi everybody, I'm Brian Hunt. I head up creative development for the original programming at Yahoo. I am the insert in the program. When I was my senior year of high school, there was a kid, his name was Owen. He was an unassuming, like short, red-haired guy. And they forgot to put his picture in the yearbook. And on the last day in homeroom, they gave everybody these stickers of his head that we were supposed to insert into the into the last page of the yearbook. And that day, everywhere you walked, there was like Owen on the wall, Owen on the urinal, and so I only stepped over one of me, so I think we're okay. I work on the content side of the business. We take pitches, we figure out what type of original programming we want to show at Yahoo, and then once we decide on those shows, my team and I help shape them so they work for our audience. While I'm on the content side, I have let me find my clicker here. I have a bunch of very skilled engineers who are always developing cutting-edge technology, beautiful products that help us frame the shows, help us share them, and distribute them. We believe this differentiates Yahoo and creates a unique user experience, this combination of compelling content and cutting-edge technology. Last week, we launched a brand new slate of comedy programs along with the Saturday Night Live archives on a new platform, Yahoo Screen. It's an app and a desktop experience. Please go download the app. It's available now in the app stores. I know today's conference is about sharing. They asked me to come here and talk about how do we share our shows. I think it's a tricky thing with content and social. If you try to let the social guide the content, you may be off on your storytelling. And if you try to kind of tack it on at the end, it usually doesn't work. It's kind of try to find that balance, what I want to talk about today, because we don't really know what's gonna. You can't say for sure what's gonna resonate. You can create it and hope that it will, and then there's other things you can do to make sure that conversation gets started. It reminds me of this great Family Guy bit where you're not really 100% sure that people want to hear what you're talking about or that it'll be received the way you want it to. Today I want to talk specifically about two shows of ours. One we released a year ago and one from last week. And I want to talk about how social created a conversation around those programs and also was part of the decision to make them and develop them, and then how that opened the door for a brand to participate both in the content and in the conversations as well. But first I'm going to show a short reel. If we can show that now, it's about the shows I'm going to be talking about today and our comedy slate that we launched last week.
Club promoter Gay Liotta is back, and this time he's gone crazy.
Welcome to Burning Love.
It says you are 5 foot perfect for me.
Let's get this party started!
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
It's Saturday Night Live.
Swing! I'm Gumby, damn it!
Media is so sensitive there, so secretive.
At him move! Mo-Kiki does the sloppy swish. He'll hypnotize you.
And make it feel inspiration. Don't tell him.
What'd you say?
I want to say it again. It didn't make that much sense.
Heidi, you look really good.
Thank you. You look just fine.
How are we gonna explain this one to the chief, huh?
Oh, I actually do speak Chippewa, so if you need...
You shall take my daughter's hand in marriage, and Downton Arby's will be yours.
Actually, I just want to grab some extra horsey sauce.
This little tiny man strikes fear in my heart.
You want me to kill the only person who's like me?
There's nothing like you. He's pure evil. And he's like
A little bit taller. And he's rich. He's really rich. He's a criminal mastermind.
You can't save seats.
I'm saving these seats for celebrities.
We don't care.
These are for Cheryl Hines and Rachel Harris.
Who are they? I have no idea.
I can't sit way up here like this.
I'm claustrophobic and I'll get sick.
Max! Max! Max!
Maya! Cheryl! Why don't we have lunch next week?
Yeah.
You were being so weird.
What? No,
I told you not to be weird. This needs to be over my head.
It's exciting. Can you feel it? It's palpable.
I am John Stamos, one of the most handsome men you could think of off the top of your head.
This is so awkward. I really want you to leave.
Freeze, police! You drop it, or the puppet is gonna die!
You do that, and I'll blow you so hard. Blow your head. You get it.
Oh, I love Robbie K's new shoes. What a boss.
Wake me up when this field goal's over.
What's the matter? We're about to get back out there.
I know, field goals are so boring.
I would love to impregnate you someday. Am I saying that right?
The cast of Scandal created that also, which is weird. First, I want to talk about a show from last year, Burning Love. It was a big hit for us, and I think one of the few certified success stories around short-form scripted programming. It was brought to us by Erica Oyama and Ken Marino. Ken is from the state. They were big Bachelor fans, and they had partnered with Red Hour, which is Ben Stiller's production company, and Paramount. And we loved the idea of the program right away. And it's really gone on to be super successful for us. It had over 10 million views in season 1. It was just nominated, or was nominated for an Emmy, and has won a bunch of Webbies. One of the most interesting things to us is when it came out in July. It came out in June, and then in July, the most traffic, the search term for Burning Love drove more traffic to Yahoo than any other search term other than Yahoo. So the show itself, we obviously want to cater to our audience on our site. There's 700 million people, so that's a big crew to talk to, but we're trying to drive more traffic, and this spread out and attracted a new audience. And a lot of the reason for that is because of its social following. And there was so I'll get to that specifically. There was a bunch of factors to Burning Love that were successful, and we took those and we applied them to our new comedy channel that we launched. And I'm going to talk about Tiny Commando and how they relate. And a main part of that was thought of from the ground up, and how that would then contribute to how the show was shared. So first and foremost, it was a great script, and that's kind of what I was talking about before, that without the story first, you can get lost, I think, if you start just thinking about only like how will this get shared, especially when you're talking about scripted. Second, it was an idea that was really relatable to our audience. It was a parody of The Bachelor. It was this show that is super ridiculous, and it was taken even more extreme into farce. And we kind of, how had someone not kind of made fun of this show already? And one interesting thing about the topic as well is that the Bachelor fans already were fervent, passionate fans. So there was a ton of social chatter around the show that was being parodied before we decided to kind of do our own version, comedic version of it. And this really helped, I think, when it caught on. Ben Stiller behind it, he was only in one episode, although he was very involved in the development of it. But having that big anchor talent, I think if you're promoting something like How to Cook a Steak on Yahoo, for example, our audience will drive to the information. They assume there's a level of authority. Comedy's harder. You really need somebody to help drive into that, and having the credibility of someone like Ben behind it really helped us market before the show started. Our Yahoo front page, obviously, is a big fire hose that allows us to promote the show. But again, that alone, as much as it starts a plateau, we have so many things we need to promote on our site. Without the social involvement and without ability for our fans to share the show, it can only catch on so far, so much. And this is where the cast really comes in, and it's something that Burning Love had a huge cast for seasons 1, 2, and 3 of these comics that comedy nerds love, but a lot of them kind of had their own shows in the works. Like Nick Kroll was in season 2. He has a show on Comedy Central. Season 1 had Kristen Bell and Adam Scott, and Michael Ian Black, folks that have their own following and fan bases. And this was really key, and I'd like to say we thought about this ahead of time, but it just kind of worked out that way. And it's a learning that we took and applied to the shows we did in the second round, is that by having that opportunity for the wide cast, every single episode had somebody new in the cast talking about it and tweeting it, and their own fan bases caught on, and it really started as like a seed fire in the social development of the show. Thus the Twitter animation. We released these in binge view, and this was, by the way, pre-House of Cards and all the Netflix stuff. We didn't do it at first, and then our data showed that people were watching multiple. Once we got the third episode out, we realized they were watching more and more at once. So that after that point, we released 3 episodes at a time. This comedy launch we just did, all the episodes came out at once. Jennifer Aniston, she helps anything, so if you can get her, that's great. She cameoed in it, and it was midway through the season. It allowed one big promotional boost to the show, and then the press just really, it became kind of a media darling and took off from there. The cast, this is the cast tweets were a major driving force here, but then what that did was set up the fans from there. And it wasn't until about the 3rd week where we really saw the show's numbers start to spike, because that groundswell, we had our own audience driving in, but it's once this kind of went out in the tentacles that the show's overall audience lifted. We went back to Paramount and Red Hours for season 2 and 3. They were both, season 1 was not fully sponsored. Seasons 2 and 3 were fully owned by one ad agency, who then rotated brands like Tums and Breathe Right and Nick Rett both into the show and into the conversation. When our slate of comedy shows that we launched last week, we really try to take those learnings that I just kind of laid out in the slide about cast, talent, topic, and apply them to what we know now, but we also wanted to kind of amplify those efforts and allow brands to be able to work themselves into that conversation as well. At this point, it's about not just saying what's going to go social, because it doesn't really work, but there are some elements that you can acknowledge ahead of time and then pair with the right scripts to help those chances. So specifically Tiny Commando, that's Zach Levi from Chuck. Ed Helms came in with the idea. He was a big remote control car nerd when he was a kid. So he always was like, what if there was a little guy in there who was like actually solving missions? And the idea we had was kind of this almost remote control version of like we were calling it our baby Bruckheimer, like a small action film done with like remote control cars. So when we got, Zach plays the lead and Ed plays Cesar Pequeño, his rival 4-inch guy who has a thumb for an arm. It's a long story you should watch to find out. It's a fairly ridiculous show, but it's very funny, and it allowed us to access a lot of the same benefits of Burning Love. So it was a topic that we knew people could easily understand. It spoofed private eye and action movies. It had a big star in Ed Helms and Zach, and then Gillian Jacobs from Community, or the leads. But we also had all these cameos throughout. These are just a few. There's a bunch more in there. And together, there was over 6 million followers of our cast and cameos before the show started. Beyond the fact that people liked them, they're all very funny and they fit the tone of the piece. Energizer then came on as the main sponsor for Tiny Commando. And there was a few great things about this. One, their slogan was like positive energy, and it's a really kind of happy, like fun show. Obviously, the integration of batteries and tons of remote control vehicles worked really well, so it wasn't that kind of awkward situation where you're like, okay, I know they paid for that. And that benefits the brand and the show. We gave Energizer then a bunch of the bonus behind the footage, bloopers, cast reels, as well as a custom trailer with their logo that showed specifically their integration scenes mixed in. Energizer was then able to use this in their own social outreach through their own tweets, their Facebook page, their Tumblr, their own site, to generate conversation both around the content of the show. They were a catalyst, and they actually were providing goods that the audience wanted. It wasn't just pushing their brand down the throat. It was about the television, about the digital show. We then ourselves had our own Tumblr, our own Yahoo Comedy and Screen and Twitter site, in addition to all the cast. So we were pushing out, our cast was pushing out, the brand was pushing out. We did a Twitter chat with Gillian last week, and the numbers, it was a half hour of her answering questions, and we couldn't keep up with it. There was a huge backlog, and I think it was interesting because we did one of our other shows, Ghost Girls, which is one of my favorites. It's really funny, and Jack Black is the executive producer on it. But Jack did one of our Twitter chats, and he doesn't have a computer, so he doesn't have a Twitter account, and it was still well received. He's such a big star, but not even close to Gillian, who has 300,000 followers and is on Community, a show that is has such passionate fans. So when you think about talent or anyone that you're associating with, it's worth thinking about what type of following they have. When we do one with Zach, because Chuck had such this hardcore nerd loyal following, we're expecting the same kind of output. Additionally, then we made these frames in addition to the videos that showed the integrations that we pushed out in addition to Energizer. For us, they're not overly promotional, but they still are driving traffic to the show. And Energizer was able to use them well. They entered the stream and then were retweeted by cast and fans alike. So we have kind of a whole circular thing going where the cast, the fans, the brand, and the distributor are all driving traffic throughout each other. So what I guess the main point for me is a takeaway, having worked on this over a year and a half, is that you can't let there's such a quick reaction to be like, what's the social how is this gonna go viral? If you let that guide the early development of programming, it's probably distracting your focus from the story you're trying to tell. And just like any marketer wants to have a strong a strong marketing statement and creative against that as their first main goal, I think stories should be too. But if you're not thinking in those early development stages about how all those decisions affect the social in the long run, like your cast, like your script, etc., it's probably going to be too late. So the idea of let's just go figure out a social plan after is no longer it's no longer really even an option anymore. So that's it for me. Please go watch the shows; they're really funny. And thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Kathy Kiley. that was the best insert thing I've ever heard. Thank you so much. That was fabulous. So that concludes the content portion of the event today. Can we please give a big warm round of applause for all of the speakers who made this such a great day. So for those of you who have not been to this event before, we now move into the very exciting portion of the day, which is the award portion. And we will be giving out the Media Maven Awards, I think we're gonna clear you out of this room for a coffee break, and I think some cookies are out there, and then we'll come back in for the awards portion. I also just want to point out that the media auction has gone live. It went live on Monday. I am pleased to announce that at last check, we've already sold close to $90,000 in media. But that's just out of the gate. Our goal is to get well past $500,000 in media. It is our largest event of the year, and it is what keeps the ad club's lights on. When you go out into the hall, you'll see some laptops set up where you can go and peruse the media that has been donated. I would like to give a huge thank you to the Media Auction Committee. So many of you who are in the room helped put together over $3.5 million in donated media. So a round of applause for the Media Committee. You work so hard and do such a great job. But now if you have $3.5 million in donation, the next chore is to sell it. So we've only just begun. So please go out, browse what's available, have your coffee, and we'll be back in here for the second and exciting finale of the day. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Kathy Kiley.
Welcome back. Before we start with the Maven Awards, we have just a quick little piece of business to do. We were all working away at the ad club a couple of weeks ago, and we got a call from the governor's office who informed us that they were proclaiming September 19th, 2013, Media Innovation Day. And we were quite thrilled. At first I thought they were proclaiming it Kathy Kiley Day, so I was really excited. Turns out it's Media Innovation Day, and so we have the honor today of having Greg Bielecki with us. Greg is the Secretary of the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, and he is here to impart the honor on not the ad club, but on all of you who have made this possible. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Kathy, and thanks to you and the Ad Club for putting on this great event and for inviting me to be here with you today. You know, Massachusetts is a great state of innovation. Governor Patrick and I, over the last almost 7 years now, have really focused on promoting innovation as the heart of our economic development and job creation strategy for the state. One of the challenges of having an innovation-focused strategy is that a lot of people's minds jumps to the high-tech aspects of innovation, that it's all about scientific and technological and medical innovation. And it's true that we're really, really good at that in Massachusetts. We're among the best in the world. But to only talk about that as innovation sells us short because, in fact, we have world-class thinkers and doers in all kinds of innovation. And when the governor and I talk about it, that's what we mean. So we mean not only those high-tech breakthroughs, but all kinds of discovery and invention and creativity and frankly just thinking differently. And we're really good at all that kind of innovation, and we should celebrate that, and we work hard to help you make it happen as well. So we're particularly glad to be here today because as you have, Kathy, you have brought together this Media Innovation Day. It shows we're really on the same page in thinking that, and broadly, in the broadest sense, about innovation, and that you know, as we know, it's not just about the technology, but it's about the creativity and the way we use it and the way we do our work. So thanks for doing that. And it is one thing for me to say that I think that we're on the same page about how important this is to Massachusetts, but it would be another if I had a proclamation from His Excellency Governor Deval Patrick, which I happen to have. which reads in part, because there are a lot of whereases in these proclamations, whereas the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is home to some of the oldest, largest, and some of the most innovative media organizations and outlets in the country, and whereas the Commonwealth recognizes the power of traditional, social, digital, and emerging media as it transforms culture, entertainment, business, government, and communications. Now, therefore, I, Deval L. Patrick, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim September 19th, 2013, to be Media Innovation Day, and urge all the citizens of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Congratulations, everybody.
That has an actual gold seal on it, so if you'd all like to get a closer look at it, you can come up and meet Greg. And Greg, I spotted you with the Google glasses on. I hope we got a picture of that we can post to your tech friends. So here we are, the best part of the day. Everybody loves to win an award. Just by way of background a little bit, the submissions this year were up 25%. So the competition this year was very tough. We also had a larger, and thank heavens that we did, we had a larger group of judges this year, and they came from all out of market, and they came from all different expertise and all different backgrounds, and they were tough judges. They really were, but they thought overall that the work was incredibly impressive. We're going to do things just a little bit differently. After this show, not tomorrow, but the following day, all of the finalists and the winning work will be online, so you can go back and read the plans, look at the work. And tonight you'll actually see little snippets of the work on stage as we announce the finalists. But more importantly, we have an MC for the evening, so you don't have to listen to me. We have the Emmy Award-winning journalist and anchor for WBZ TV, Kate Merrill. Kate is a 15-year TV veteran and has worked at stations across the country, including WKRN in Nashville and WNBC in New York. She is currently the anchor for WBZ TV Weekend Morning News, as well as the primary anchor of WBZ TV News at 10 on MyTV 38. Please give a warm welcome to Kate Merrill.
Everybody, how are you doing? That good? What did I miss? Anything? Fun day. So I'll tell you about 128. It really stinks right now. Traffic is horrible. So I'm going to move past my drive-in and celebrate with you all because I'm very excited to be here. I'm very honored to be here. I always love hearing my introduction. I feel like it's my obituary or something. It's kind of weird. But I want to thank Kathy for having me and Kate for getting me here to the room on time. And I want to welcome you all to the 2013 Media Maven Awards. Let's get right to it. I don't want to waste any time because I know what this is all like. You're waiting to hear the good news. Nervous in your seat. So let's begin with the first award, Best Use of Television. This award recognizes outstanding creative use of television media that includes television commercials, infomercials, and other use of television as primary media. This year's finalists are Hill Holiday for Chili's, Hill Holiday for Dunkin' Donuts, and Media Hub Mullen for the National Geographic Channel. And the winner is Hill Holiday for their work with Dunkin' Donuts. Please welcome to the stage Dave Bolger with Hill Holiday to accept the award on behalf of Hill Holiday. When Dunkin' Donuts needed a platform that would help the brand grow and communicate with customers efficiently, Hill Holiday created a customized multi-screen interactive campaign that focused on consumer target segments. Football fans run on Dunkin', awards season run on Dunkin', psychos run on Dunkin', I run on Dunkin', a lot of people run on Dunkin', encourage social media, engage in these utilizing hashtags, and the campaigns proved to be extremely effective. Congratulations to Hill Holiday. Our second category of the day, there's a lot of stuff up here to organize, is Best Use of Radio. This award recognizes the outstanding and creative use of radio media, which includes radio advertising, radio underwriting, or sponsorship, or other use of radio as primary media. This year, judges felt there was only one entry worthy of being called a finalist, and they were in agreement that they won. This one entry was the winner, so that's always the best. With that, this year's winner for Best Use of Radio is Media Hub Mullen for JetBlue Airways. Please welcome to the stage Lauren Atkins, Senior Media Planner, to accept the award on behalf of Media Hub Mullen. When Delta dominated the category of communication in JetBlue's home base of New York for the communication for the first half of 2013, they needed an idea that would go beyond paid media. Media Hub Mullen partnered with CBS Radio to offer consumers relief from the heat with heavily discounted one-day hot seat promotion flights. The strategy increased web traffic by 111% over the previous day and 16% over the same day 1 year prior. The one-day promotion proved to be a success, selling out all available seats in just 75 minutes. Unbelievable. Great job. Our next category of the day, Best Use of Print. This award recognizes outstanding and creative use of print media, which includes newspapers, magazines, posters, brochures, flyers, direct mail, any other printed form of media. The finalists are Havas Media for Tyson Foods, Hill Holiday for Home Base, and Media Hub Mullen for the National Geographic Channel. Hi, Ashley, how are you? My friend is out there, I just saw her. And the winner is Media Hub Mullen for their work with the National Geographic Channel. Please welcome Alex Akuri, Senior Media Planner, to accept the award. So when National Geographic Channel favorite Doomsday Preppers was picked up for a second year following a record-breaking first season, they needed a way to grow their audience and appeal to a more mainstream viewer. Don't we all? So Media Hub Mullen turned to magazines as a key channel to interact with readers, starting the conversation via magazines, digital channels, and leveraging elements like tweets, e-blasts, Facebook. The show premiered as the highest-rated regularly scheduled show on National Geographic ever, with the additional superior ratings in unique reader interactions across multiple magazine publications. Nice work, guys. And clap. Our next category of the day, Best Use of Out-of-Home. This award recognizes outstanding and creative use of out-of-home media, which includes billboards, public transit, bus shelter advertising, mobile billboards, and digital billboards. This year's finalists are Hill Holiday for Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, Media Hub Mullen for JetBlue Airways, and Media Hub Mullen for the National Geographic Channel. And the winner is Media Hub Mullen for JetBlue Airways. Please welcome back to the stage Lauren Atkins to accept the award. In 2012, JetBlue needed a strong New York effort with just a modest investment. So using the hotly contested election year, Media Hub Mullen came up with an idea. If my candidate loses the election, I'm leaving the country. New Yorkers were given election projection, the opportunity to win a free flight to any of the JetBlue international destinations to get out of the country by voting on their site. Messaging was placed on television units in political news, pre-debate news, and late-night talk shows. Street teams engaged with over 245,000 consumers, earning JetBlue over 2 million impressions. And last but not least, the campaign was picked up by over 1,500 news outlets in 11 countries. Congratulations to Media Hub Mullen for that. Moving right along, next award, Best Use of Digital Media. This award recognizes media plans that are driven by digital media, which includes websites, banner ads, rich media banner ads, and digital video and microsites. I'd like to invite Lynn Montesano, Global Multimedia Sales Director at the Wall Street Journal, to present this award. Lynn? Thanks, Kim. I'm so excited I can't even open the envelope. The finalists for Best Use of Digital Media are Blitz Media for Breville, Media Hub Mullen for JetBlue Airways, and Starcom Media Vest Group for Bank of America Merrill Edge. And the winner is Starcom Media Vest Group, Bank of America Merrill Edge. Please welcome to the stage Devin Harrington, Account Manager, and Patrick Kelly, Associate Director of Media, to accept this award on behalf of the team. When Bank of America needed to launch a new Merrill Edge retirement planning product into a difficult and crowded category, they faced a challenge to be relevant and reach apprehensive consumers. Starcom Media Vest Group helped to overcome that challenge through the birth of faceretirement.merrilledge.com. The site allowed people to see what they'd look like in future years, forecast their cost of living, and let them share their images socially. Their efforts resulted in an increase in brand awareness of over 602,000 site visits and 80% of those visitors engaging with the application. Facebook and viral activity is estimated to have reached another 193,000 people. Congratulations. Thank you, Lynn. Next up, Best Use of Mobile Media. This award recognizes media plans that are driven by mobile media, which includes mobile apps, advertisements, banners, video, click to buy, location-based features and services, MMS, SMS, marketing, and in-game advertising. The finalists are Blitz Media for Bosch, Media Hub Mullen for National Geographic Channel, and Media Hub Mullen for Olympics. And the winner is Blitz Media for Bosch. Please welcome to the stage Mary McCarthy, Chief Media Officer, and Beth Ringer, Director of Digital and Analytics, to accept the award for Blitz Media. In March 2013, Bosch urgently needed to implement an April promotion that would immediately increase wiper blade sales at select retailers across the U.S. With spring on everyone's minds, Blitz Media put Rainmaker Media Plan into action using radio and mobile as key mediums. 100% of their digital budget was placed on mobile, utilizing precision mapping and purchased radio. A staggering 40% of those who used the units mapped directions to the nearest retailer. As a result, Bosch was recognized as the Global Supplier of the Month in April 2013 by their largest retail partner. Congratulations to the Blitz team. Well done. Up next, Best Use of Social Media. This award recognizes media plans that are driven by social media, which includes, of course, Facebook, Twitter, viral or word-of-mouth campaigns, YouTube, or any other sharing platform. And the finalists are Blitz Media for Brayville, Hill Holiday for Dunkin' Donuts, and KSV for National Grid. And the winner is KSV for National Grid. Please welcome to the stage Amy Frost, Connections Director, Alexa Mucklow, Social Media Associate, and Lauren Schechter, Connections Analyst, to accept the award for KSV. When Hurricane Sandy hit and hundreds of thousands of people lost service, National Grid customers needed a voice to guide them. The company turned to KSV. They developed an in-depth storm social media playbook for the use in emergency weather events. Customers flocked to National Grid's Facebook and Twitter channels from smartphones, computers, tablets, providing them with all-hours stream of high-quality, localized content from across National Grid accounts. As a result, National Grid not only witnessed a dramatic increase in positive customer sentiment, but also a sizable increase in fan growth and engagement. Congratulations, KSV, for that. How are we doing? Good? Everybody still? Okay, good, just checking. Our next award, Best Use of New and Non-Traditional Media. This award recognizes media plans that are driven by new and non-traditional media, which includes emerging media, search engine marketing, in-game advertising, tablet advertising, and non-traditional use of traditional media. The finalists here are Blitz Media for American Dental Partners, Hill Holiday for Bully Boy, and PGR Media for Cole Haan. And today's winner for this is PGR Media for Cole Haan. Please welcome Colleen Moran, Media Planner, to accept the award on the company's behalf. In fall of 2012, Cole Haan launched the Don't Go Home campaign. They chose to work with the vibrant nightlife of New York City to inspire consumers to forget the stigma of the brand being tailored to an older demographic. To drive in younger audience, PGR helped select the coolest locations in the city to utilize new and non-traditional media, deploying creative messaging that was strategic and engaging. PGR's efforts proved to be successful. The campaign fueled multiple editorial pieces and increased their sales by 36%. Congratulations to PGR. Our next award, Best Use of Branded Content. This award recognizes media plans that are driven by branded content, which includes advertising in the form of entertaining, including TV content, web content, podcasts, and others. The finalists for this category: Blitz Media for Brayville, Havas Media for Choice Hotels, and Media Hub Mullen for National Geographic Channel. And the winner is Blitz Media for Brayville. Please welcome Carrie Ann Driscoll, Director of Marketing, and Beth Ringer, Director of Digital and Analytics, to accept this award on behalf of Blitz. In the summer of 2010, the independent film Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead was released on Netflix, chronicling a man's mission to regain his health through juicing using a Brayville juicer. Blitz Media saw a unique opportunity to capitalize on the organic product placement through promoting the movie rather than the actual product. They created a 100% digital video campaign that was deployed in stealth placements on Channel Factory, YouTube, Buzz Agent Network, and multiple video networks. The re-release film was watched over 3 million times, and Brayville Juicer sales increased more than double in the immediate months following the campaign because of that. Congratulations to Blitz. Up next, Best Integrated Campaign. This award recognizes media plans that are driven by any integrated combination of media, including television, radio, print, out-of-home, digital, mobile, social, new and non-traditional media, or branded content. I would now like to welcome Jason Kissel, Vice President of Advertising for the Boston Globe Media, to present this award.
Thank you, Kate. Good afternoon, everyone. The finalists for Best Integrated Campaign are Genuine Interactive with the MediaWorks and the Museum of Fine Arts Boston for the Museum of Fine Arts Boston, Media Hub Mullen for JetBlue Airways, and Partners in Simon for AIG. And the winner is, back to the stage, Media Hub Mullen for JetBlue Airways. Please welcome Lauren Atkins, Senior Media Planner, and Alex Hale, Senior Digital Media Planner, to accept the awards. When JetBlue needed to set the bar a little higher to stand out from the massive amount of marketing noise in New York, Media Hub Mullen used the 2012 election to develop a successful integrated campaign plan. Simply by voting on their site, 2012 New Yorkers were offered election protection, giving them the opportunity to win a free flight to any of JetBlue's international destinations. They placed messaging on multiple television units and within full site roadblocks on NBCNewYork.com and ComedyCentral.com. Also, street teams used a campaign bus to engage with over 245,000 consumers, and 2 million earned impressions were achieved, doubling the number of paid impressions. Efforts resulted in the campaign being picked up by 1,560 news outlets in 11 countries. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jason. We're way ahead of schedule, by the way, if you haven't noticed. I'm reading so fast, so you can thank me after. I'm just hoping I don't embarrass myself, because yesterday I wore a beard on television at Fenway Park on TV, so as long as I don't do anything similar to that, I think I'll be good today, but still recovering from that, so hopefully this will go smoother than that. Our next award, Best Plan for Campaign Spending $1 million or Less. This award specifically recognizes outstanding and creative media plans that were executed with a budget consisting of less than $1 million. This year's finalists are Blitz Media for Bosch, Hill Holiday for Samaritans, and Genuine Interactive with the Media Works and the Museum of Fine Arts Boston for the Museum of Fine Arts Boston. And the winner is Hill Holiday for Samaritans. Please welcome to the stage Cindy Stockwell to accept this award for Hill Holiday. When Samaritans was receiving inadequate donations as a result of the stigma attached to suicide, Hill Holiday knew they had to drastically change perception of the company. They took non-traditional approaches that would engage Bostonians in social experiments, prompting positivity through simple acts that would brighten the day of the participants. An image portal was created that allowed visitors to upload images on what makes them happy and link it with the hashtag #HappierBoston. Not only did Happier Boston strike a chord across the city, but its media coverage extended to the New York Times and NBC's Today Show, resulting in an additional 10 million impressions of free media exposure and giving Samaritans the national recognition they deserved. What a wonderful campaign. Congratulations to Hill Holiday for that. Our next category, Best Use of Research. This award recognizes media plans that were significantly based on specific insight from audience or marketing research. The judges deemed only 2 finalists worthy of recognition, and they are Blitz Media for Grubhub and Hill Holiday for Bank of America. And the winner is Hill Holiday for Bank of America. Please welcome Dan Goldstein and Shana Ramaswamy, senior analyst, to accept the award on behalf of Hill Holiday. In order to help Bank of America connect their customers to what was important to them while also improving customer relations and brand satisfaction, Hill Holiday knew they needed a much more personal media approach. They used social media as a platform to develop a proprietary content media strategy that was relevant for both bank brand and interested social media users. The initiative focused on building relationships by investing in particular interest groups and creating opportunities for one-on-one interaction, leading to improvements in BOA's business, and specifically their prospects that are social friends or followers are now 275% more likely to think of BOA favorably, and customers are 80% more likely to view the organization favorably. So congratulations to Hill Holiday for that. Up next, Best Multicultural Campaign. This award recognizes media plans designed specifically to reach specific multicultural markets. And the finalists are Havas Media for Choice Hotels, Media Hub Mullen for Mass Mutual, and Pulvora Advertising for Blue Bunny Ice Cream. And the winner is Havas for Choice Hotels. Please welcome to the stage Melissa Romig, Cami Keeler, and Anya Slavin to accept the award for Havas. When Choice Hotels chose to take a different approach to their advertising initiatives and connect to a multicultural audience, they were faced with the challenge of getting the audience to connect with them back. Havas Media approached their strategy by aligning with 3 cultural pillars: Black History Month, Steve Harvey, and the Travelistas, to position Comfort Inn as a lifestyle brand in the eyes of their target audience. They created content that highlighted Black History Month and promoted the brand via the popular platforms offered by both Steve Harvey and the Travelistas. In addition, Comfort Inn sponsored a sweepstakes to build drive engagement and Choice Hotel lead generation database. The campaign was extremely successful, and the sweepstakes garnered over 144,000 entries. The Comfort Inn had a conversion rate to booking that was 146 higher than projected. Congratulations to Havas. Our next category tonight, Best B2B Campaign. This award recognizes media plans focused on business-to-business efforts. The finalists are Allen and Gerritsen for Boston University, Allen and Gerritsen for MFS, and Blitz Media for Idea Paint. And the winner is Allen and Gerritsen for Boston University. Please welcome Kim Creamer, Director of Digital Media, and Marissa Kirkuru, Associate Media Director, to accept the, say that again, how do you say it? Sorry. I've said so much worse on television, so I'm so sorry. Okay. The main challenge for Boston University faced, that's the worst though, when someone's name, it's like, I can screw it, you just don't want to screw up someone's name, so, sorry. When the main challenge for Boston University faced was, it had slipped in the national rankings, it needed to improve its reputation score. After much research, Allen and Gerritsen developed a business-to-business strategy that would help the university rise in ranking. Realizing their target audience was a very niche group of university officials, they targeted 2 major undergrad rankings published each year, running placements in print editions and their online supplements. In addition, they ran print and digital ads within key trade publications and sites. They used e-newsletters and emails. They utilized registration-based sites. Though we still await the release, it is known that BU did increase rankings this past year from 54th to 51st place, which is a huge success in the client's eyes. So congratulations to that. Up next, Risky Business Award. The purpose of this award is to recognize media plans that took a significant risk and went against conventional media wisdom and put a meaningful budget towards taking that risk. This year's Risky Business Award finalists are Allen and Gerritsen for D'Angelo, Conover Tuttle Pace for Red Hat Enterprise, and Hill Holiday for Bully Boy. And the winner is Allen and Gerritsen for D'Angelo. Please welcome to the stage Kim Creamer, Director of Digital Media, to accept the award on behalf of the company. When D'Angelo was struggling recently to stand out in the lunchtime market, Allen and Gerritsen launched a Think With Your Stomach campaign to change brand perception and expand to a new and younger demographic. The 360-degree campaign focused media on digital surrounding their target consumers' passion points of sports, music, and online video. The target audience was challenged to re-engage and rethink through high-impact placements and pre-roll video on Pandora, ESPN, Boston, and Hulu. The campaign generated over 1,300 Facebook likes, and the number of fans increased over 40,000. Additionally, coupon redemptions and download rates far surpassed projections. Congratulations, once again, to A&G. And our first individual award, we have the Media All-Star Award presented by Yahoo. This award recognizes a senior media planner buyer who has demonstrated an expert understanding of media planning and buying, who has contributed to the success and achievement of client goals, and who has imparted knowledge on the younger generation of planners and buyers. So please welcome Steve Malia, Director of Yahoo, to the stage to present the Media All-Stars Award.
Thank you. The Ad Club's Media Innovation Day is arguably Boston's most important media event of the year. Yahoo is proud to be a sponsor for the 3rd year in a row and to be the exclusive digital partner for the year-long 100th anniversary of the Ad Club. I'm thrilled to be presenting the Yahoo Media All-Star Award to an agency professional who has demonstrated an exceptional level of leadership, creativity, and knowledge of media planning and buying that has translated into success for their client partners. The finalists are Sean Corcoran from Media Hub Mullen, Keith Lusby from Media Hub Mullen, and Mary Warren McCarthy from Blitz Media. And the award goes to Keith Lusby from Media Hub Mullen. Keith started his career at P&G before making his way to Boston, where he ran the Cara office. Keith then joined Media Hub Mullen, where he quickly made a valuable impact. Keith has recently won 2 highly competitive reviews on both, and he won on both fronts, so congratulations to Keith.
Thank you, Steve. My daughter couldn't log on to her Yahoo account. Can I talk to you about that, or somebody else today? We're having trouble. Oh, you get somebody? Okay. Seriously, we were having trouble today. Thank you, Steve. Now we are for the bright, let's see. Sorry about that. Okay, now for the Bright and Honor Roll Media Rising Star Award. This award recognizes an up-and-coming media planner or buyer under the age of 30 who demonstrates a keen understanding and insight into the strategy behind media planning and buying. I'd like to invite Vivian Herron, Director of Sales of Northeast at Bright Roll, to the stage to present this award. Vivian.
Bright Roll is proud to sponsor the Ad Club's Media Innovation Day. As the nation's leading video advertising network, it is a thrill for us to be presenting this award the second year in a row to future leaders of media. The Media Rising Star Award goes to a young executive who has demonstrated a keen understanding and insight beyond their years into the strategy behind successful media buying and planning. Due to their hard work and dedication, these impressive finalists truly are bright and on a roll. And the finalists are Alan Apjohn from Media Hub Mullen, Kyle Graham from Blitz Media, Paige Salvia from Hill Holiday, and the 2013 Rising Star Award goes to Kyle Graham from Blitz Media. Nobody better represents the value of ownership than Blitz Media's Kyle Graham. He's a certifiable stakeholder who is responsible for a key piece of the agency P&L. Kyle joined Blitz in the fall of 2010 as a search marketing manager and has rapidly expanded his role to manage all SEM duties. He has exponentially grown assignments to a point where SEM now represents a staggering double-digit percentage of the agency billings. Over the 3 short years since joining Blitz Media, Kyle has driven a significant growth and revenue to Blitz on numerous fronts. What's more, last year, Kyle was recognized as one of only 19 winners for the Google Engage All-Star Award. Congratulations, Kyle.
Oh my gosh, is that what I look like on that thing? You didn't tell me to wear my HD makeup to this event. Okay. I try not to look at those things. All right. Well, congratulations to all the winners this year. You're truly the best of the best. It's an honor to be here in the presence of such creative genius, and as somebody who enjoys all of your work, I say thank you for all that you do and all of the creative genius that comes out. I love seeing it all unfold on all the media, whether it be my old dinosaur media in between my commercial breaks or on other venues all around the world. So thank you. Congratulations to all the winners. We've come to the end of the awards ceremony. Thank goodness. I'd like to turn it back over to Kathy. Thank you for having me here today. Enjoy the rest of the evening, everybody.
Thank you. And I am going to proclaim that this is the end of 2013 Media Innovation Day. And I'm also proclaiming that there are cocktails and some nice food to meet and mingle and congratulate one another out in the hall. So thank you all, and to our sponsors again, thank you so much, and we will see you again next year. Thank you.